If you thought you saw your freedom, it was truly a mirage. Freedom's locked a cell away from Julian Assange. Our First Amendment rights are by his side behind bars, and the next voices silenced will be ours. Rest assured, democracy is rotting in the dark. Rest assured, we vilified dissenters, pushed out black renters, and tore down their housing just to build a little urban park. God, I tell you, old America really knows how to leave its mark. Blaze a trail, leave 100 scars. Rip your free speech out your throat, demonize the man who told you it was so, and leave him freezing in a cell in Belmarsh, perpetually awaiting extradition, thrown to the wolves of claustrophobia and malnutrition. And all that we can hope is that we catch Uncle Joe in a fleeting, lucid moment of his flickering, senile fascist mission. That maybe we could trick him into thinking Julian is just a sweet, blonde, middle school Christian. She got mixed up with a few bad apples, slapped with some charges, and thrown into prison. Joe would set him free without a moment's hesitation under one condition: that he can sniff her hair before she goes back to school and he goes back to business. But if Joe's just had his shots, then we haven't got a chance of getting past his black and white vision, getting past his gut reaction to appease all of his donors' sick requests and shape policy and law around corporate mandated decisions. So really, all along, I think Julian was one man standing in a tempest with the fearlessness of true conviction. And if his is the only conviction we see after he shed a light on this country's most poisonous schemes all come to fruition, and we all collectively stare at the ground because we felt like our hands were too tied beyond signing petitions, while he's tortured to death for attempting to warn and enlighten admittedly not quite the brightest of citizens, and half of this country just won't take the time to uncover the truth, or they just don't mind, so they're quick to dismiss it and say it's a difficult position. Well, then we're back to the comfort of centrist delusion. Right back to sleep for the ignorant sheep who resisted themselves into one protracted contusion, twisting themselves into knots to correct all your stimulus check-based confusion, wrapping their necks around their backs as they justify overflow migrant detention or fracking pollution. Then Kamala laughs, and the camera pans down to her shoes. And that footage is 90% of your 6 o'clock news, except for a feel-good story about a man who, at 95 years young, just made Employee of the Month at Whole Foods. And the $50 gift card means this month he'll afford his prescriptions and meals, and he won't have to choose. This is the machine that a man named Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of, for you. So to cry out for his freedom is the least that we can do. Now best believe the feds will serve to muddy up the truth, but rest assured the temperature in Belmarsh is an icy 22, and Julian is shivering in a solitary room without a view. Rest assured Obama loves a whistleblower just about as much as he loves weddings where he doesn't get to detonate the groom. Rest assured Obama bought the plot where all our First Amendment rights are gonna rot and demanded that they carve his smiling likeness on the tomb. So when you come to pay respects to your free speech rights, and a somber feeling hits you and you look up to the sky, the answer will be staring you right in the eyes to the questions of why and of who. So if you thought you saw your freedom, then they wanted you to. Human rights are mutable, and Julian is proof. Our First Amendment rights are stuck in solitary too, and the next voice silent might be you.
If you thought you saw your freedom, it was truly a mirage. Freedom's locked a cell away from Julian Assange. Our First Amendment rights are by his side behind bars, and the next voices silenced will be ours. Rest assured, democracy is rotting in the dark. Rest assured, we vilified dissenters, pushed out black renters, and tore down their housing just to build a little urban park. God, I tell you, old America really knows how to leave its mark. Blaze a trail, leave 100 scars. Rip your free speech out your throat, demonize the man who told you it was so, and leave him freezing in a cell in Belmarsh, perpetually awaiting extradition, thrown to the wolves of claustrophobia and malnutrition. And all that we can hope is that we catch Uncle Joe in a fleeting lucid moment of his flickering senile fascist mission. That maybe we could trick him into thinking Julian is just some sweet blonde middle school Christian, and she got mixed up with a few bad apples, slapped with some charges, and thrown into prison. Joe would set him free without a moment's hesitation under one condition: that he can sniff her hair before she goes back to school and he goes back to business. But if Joe's just had his shots, then we haven't got a chance of getting past his black and white vision, getting past his gut reaction to appease all of his donors' sick requests and shape policy and law around corporate mandated decisions. So really, all along, I think Julian was one man standing in a tempest with the fearlessness of true conviction. And if his is the only conviction we see after he shed a light on this country's most poisonous schemes all come to fruition, and we all collectively stare at the ground because we felt like our hands were too tied beyond signing petitions, while he's tortured to death for attempting to warn and enlighten admittedly not quite the brightest of citizens, and half of this country just won't take the time to uncover the truth, or they just don't mind, so they're quick to dismiss it and say it's a difficult position. Then we're back to the comfort of centrist delusion. We're right back to sleep for those ignorant sheep who resisted themselves into one protracted contusion, twisting themselves into knots to correct all your stimulus check-based confusion, wrapping their necks around their backs as they justify overflow migrant detention or fracking pollution. Then Kamala laughs, and the camera pans down to her shoes. And that footage is 90% of your 6 o'clock news. Except for a feel-good story about a man who at 95 years young just made Employee of the Month at Whole Foods. And the $50 gift card means this month he'll afford his prescriptions and meals, and he won't have to choose. This is the machine that a man named Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of for you. So to cry out for his freedom is the least that we can do. Now best believe the feds will serve to muddy up the truth, but rest assured the temperature in Belmarsh is an icy 22, and Julian is shivering in a solitary room without a view. Rest assured Obama loves a whistleblower just about as much as he loves weddings where he doesn't get to detonate the groom. Rest assured Obama bought the plot where all our First Amendment rights are gonna rot and demanded that they carve his smiling likeness on the tomb. So that when you come to pay respects to your free speech rights and a somber feeling hits you and you look up to the sky, the answer will be staring you right in the eyes to the questions of why and of who. So if you thought you saw your freedom, then they wanted you to. Human rights are mutable, and Julian is proof. Our First Amendment rights are stuck in solitary too. And the next voice silent might be you.
They won't let you go, set you free, or send you home. Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and they won't let you go, set you free, send you home.
I was close enough to smell the fire. Jesus took the wheel and then he kicked me off the ride. I was busy shouting at myself from in the crowd, about to throw down and drag myself outside. I had to give myself the business. When I show myself forgiveness, it goes right between the eyes. Was looking past my shoulder, never focused on the prize. I stalked myself through burning sand the better part of 40 nights. I found myself staring in the mirror, yelling, go into the light. Cause I was in the rear view, staring at the highway, horrified. I was in the road ahead, arms wide, ready to be mummified. Gonna be the fella yelling how he's sick of always betting on his life. I'll also be the guy that brought the dice. Half a dozen chambers and I keep an empty 5. Only needed one to break the ice. Only needed one to clear my mind. Only needed one to stop time.
Wait, please say you know what you need is what you owed, and that won't let you go. Set you free, send you home.
That brought the dice.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
We're back. I'm back. I fixed it. We're back.
You're not indie.
I'm not indie. I'm Reef. My computer works. It's INN News again. Yay! Yay, we did it.
What was so a little BTS for our folks in the chat. Welcome. Another Wednesday, another INN News Day. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be Indy and I tonight because Reef's computer almost went to the other side, or seemingly so. So you were trying to get parts to fix it, but you were working on it earlier. So
today,
I can ask you this now because Indy was like, you might need to change the tweet because you got your computer fixed. So what happened?
Well, we thought maybe my CPU cooler was the problem first. Wasn't that. It was my power supply. So bought another one of those, plugged it in, redid every cable inside, and turned it on, and it worked. So now we're here. Where I can do stuff again, which is nice. So
and at
I'm
least you wouldn't
sure.
be.
I'm sure we're working out some gremlins. You know, I don't know where they're at yet, but
But I'm sure. But at least for now.
We'll do it live.
Hey, that works. Cool. Everything with soundboard works. Everything cool.
Well,
Everything's good.
So, right. But because we were anticipating you not coming in tonight, I basically planned mostly every story for tonight. So
Yep.
all you basically have to do is sit back and relax and be cute and comment.
Well, that's easy for me. Being cute's my middle name, dog.
Right. But so sorry for the last minute change, folks. But and he was like, you have to change your tweet. I'm like, no, like
no,
this
he's
is
good.
spam.
He'll be here later
it
anyway.
is spam. He'll be here later on, which actually gives him some extra time to put his little ones to bed, and he'll be able to come in later. And he really and I think considering our last story tonight, I think of anyone in the world who I know who wants to talk about it. Actually, you know what? Why don't we get to it? Why don't we talk about the stories that I'm going to mostly cover tonight? So yeah.
You're making us.
Yeah. Like Reef was talking to me earlier. He was like, "Why are you talking about this guy?" And he said it. You said it. Like, and I think you're right. It's personal.
Because
it is personal for me
Putin's a
because
madman.
I've had 3 interactions with this guy over the last 3 years. So, but obviously the biggest story probably within the last 24 hours is that Bowman lost his primary in his district.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously people have some opinions about his loss. And I have some opinions too, but probably not in the way that a lot of people are thinking. And it's mostly kind of a reminder of things that people are not necessarily saying is what I kind of want to talk about. But I think from that, possibly a way of how we can move forward, or at least think about this situation in terms of what will happen within our government moving forward as from now, and what our response should be. And I think you can definitely fill in.
Yep.
Some you can definitely speak on that because you and I talk about that a lot in private. So that's going to be our first story, but obviously typically we do the stories that we care more about toward the end. So obviously the fact that he's going to be first shows that I just want to get this over with and move
Get
on.
it over with. Get it out of here. Yeah.
But this story, this was kind of popping off yesterday. I think it's kind of important.
Bolivia also.
And yes, that was just breaking earlier today. So, but I think this is a story that we probably will have to follow. But NATO is essentially gotten a hold of Kenya to now they're somewhat of a vassal of the West. What does that mean and its implications? We'll get into that later. And this cute little girl, this is Hind Rajab. You might know her from the Macklemore song Hind's Hall. When the protesters at Columbia overtook the hall, I forgot the name of it right now. They renamed it Hind's Hall. This is a little girl who the hall was briefly renamed after. So I've wanted to talk about her for a minute, but there's kind of been an update to her story that I haven't seen many people, not many, I haven't seen anybody talk about. And I do think it's very important given, the implications of how Israel are straight up demons. But we do have some more information in a way kind of relates to the song that I do want to talk about tonight. So I will warn you, if you are a little sensitive towards, like, especially when regarding children. We're not going to show anything graphic, obviously, but I think just even the content alone might be a little much for some of you. So it might be a segment that you might want to step away from. But I'll give a warning when we get there.
I'll take this one because I've been wanting to say this headline for a long fucking time. Assange is free. Like,
sort
free.
of.
Well, we'll get to it. I mean, if any of us are free, that's the argument Collin's making. But yes, he's free. He's not in Belmarsh any longer. So we're gonna go into that and talk about that because I wouldn't miss talking about that. And Indy will be here for that story at least. So, but yeah, Dr. Nick in the chat, why wasn't the Bolivian coup successful? Not sure. I have only seen a couple of things on Twitter about it, so we'll look into it.
That might be a story we'll probably, I think that might be a story we'll cover
next week.
Possibly when we have a little bit more information, but that literally just popped up within the last couple of hours. So obviously we didn't have enough time to, and generally we usually don't jump on stories right away unless we have enough
we got a day to plan. We can pull it off.
So
I'll leave Rockfin and Rumble in the chat for people. Let me grab those links. But in the meantime, if you would like to support us and, keep the lights on, as they say, you can scan the QR code on your screen or go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork. Give us a little super chat that way. If you're in the live chat, you can put !donate, leave us a little super chat that way. Should get read on screen. Which will be nice. Rockfin and Rumble.
And one brief, quick addition, since some of you within the last couple of weeks have asked, is there a link? Obviously, we have it on our slides. Obviously, we have it on this slide, but a lot of people were asked, is there a way that, so we also included all the links to where you can donate in the description, and we're going to start doing that every week. So
down in that doobly-doo.
So you have several ways now, so there's really no excuse now. So obviously you can memorize this if you want, or use the QR code, but if you don't remember all of that, or if you do not remember to type in !donate for the Ko-fi link, you can go to our description and see all the links where you can donate to wherever you want. And obviously, as we always say, please take care of your families, please take care of your communities, please take care of your personal needs first before you give to us. That being said, any donation that you give towards the network, especially since YouTube hates us and demonetized us and is not going to give us much money anyway, any support that you can give us will be most appreciative. And shout out to all our current and past supporters. This beautiful list here, we obviously want to add more to it.
Make me make another slide. We're having to fill this one up. So, but good looking out. And always you can go to these places here, down here. They're right there on your screen.
And also, thank you guys. We hit our 2K goal. When did we hit it? Friday? Last week? Yeah, I think we hit it Friday. Congratulations! So we definitely hit the 2K. I know you put in 3K, but I think it might be make more sense 5 now.
25, whatever.
2,500 or maybe 5K, just so you're not changing them so often. But then again, how slow as we
not hard
have been getting, as slow as we've been growing, slow but steady. You probably won't have to change that quite so soon. So,
let's get into our first story. Get it over with.
Get it over with. So yeah, we're, oh God. I picked the worst picture. I mean, it's kind of fitting.
Putin's a
That's the
madman.
worst picture. I picked the worst picture.
Putin's a madman.
But yes,
Putin's a madman.
oh god, yeah. So hopefully, but maybe there's a silver lining in this. We probably won't have to talk about Bowman ever again, or at least not in a significant way. Probably after this,
unless he fucks up your order at McDonald's, you know, like
no,
whatever.
No, he's not. No, he'll get some type of contributor job, maybe for CNN, or he might get some lobby job. Like, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of places who are going to take pity on him.
Right.
But I'm not worried about him in this slightest. So I think he will be just fine. But yes, as we reported earlier, and as many of you all know, because it's all over Twitter, it's all over mainstream media, Jamaal Bowman is out. So he lost his primary to his Democratic opponent, George Latimer, in New York. So let's get into it. So this is a political article. Very not often that we use mainstream media articles, but this was the one I found as this was going on last night. At least what I pulled last night. So Nick Reichman, Rich Mendez, and Emily Nago write, Jamaal Bowman is ousted in most expensive House primary ever. Westchester County Executive George Latimer bested the incumbent Democrat. So they write, Representative Jamaal Bowman was trounced in a suburban New York race that became a referendum on progressives' attitudes towards Israel and the most expensive House primary in U.S. history. Moderate Democrat George Latimer bested Bowman Tuesday, making Bowman the first member of the squad to lose an election since the far-left group formed in 2018. Latimer, a challenger who ran like an incumbent, benefited from an unprecedented flood of outside cash in a primary fueled by allegations of racism and the party's sharp divide over the Israel-Hamas war.
Hamas.
A leading pro-Israel group spent more than $14 million on TV ads to see him. And as the results rolled in, it became clear that AIPAC and its super PAC, United Democracy Project, had succeeded in making an example of a two-term member of Congress for routinely criticizing the Israeli offensive in Gaza. Still, many of the TV ads attacking Bowman or praising Latimer made scant mention of Israel and instead focused on infrastructure spending and other issues of local concern. The House district, which includes affluent suburban communities and diverse urban neighborhoods, is not expected to be in play for Republicans in November, making Bowman's defeat a triumph for centrist Democrats. Since the recent rise of progressives, Latimer and his fellow moderates have sought to drag the party back to the middle, especially when it comes to Israel policy. AIPAC and its super PAC has spent heavily across the country in a bid to unseat other critics of Israel, but no way did they anticipate such an advantage as Bowman's district with a large Jewish population. The AIPAC-aligned United Democracy Project in the statement vowed to replicate its backing of Latimer against Israel critics across the country. Latimer's victory is another example of how support for the U.S.-Israel alliance is good policy and good politics, the group said. UPD will continue to support leaders who promote our partnership with Israel and oppose detractors regardless of political party. So basically, that's just a straight-out threat right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually thinking about this today because what people are not necessarily talking about, because not everybody, but a lot of people are in the fields about Bowman losing, and people are basically like, oh, it's AIPAC that took him out, and this and that and the other. Well, Bowman was losing by 14 points before AIPAC ever became involved.
A ton of money in.
Right. So I made the comment on Twitter earlier today, like, did AIPAC have to give as much money as they did to ensure of this loss? I would
that's
argue
probably just head on a spike money. Like, here's what we can do, you know?
Right.
So,
So going off of that, I feel like it wasn't so much they used that money to oust Bowman since he was in trouble anyhow. And we'll get to more why I believe he was in trouble to begin with later. I feel that was more of a warning shot for everyone else in Congress, basically being like, if you oppose us or if you oppose Israel, we have this amount of money to own you. So, and I feel in particular of the squad, this was mostly for them.
Yeah.
So, you know, Cori Bush is up for her seat in August, I believe. So she's next on the chopping block, basically. But yeah, like I said, I feel like it wasn't so much that they needed to give in this much money. I think they just wanted to kind of say, what's up? This is what we're able to do, and we can do more if you cross us. So who's that? Baser Maternal Rage. She said, they said 800,000 against Corey already. Yeah. So, you know, and actually I also said this online too. It's like, if you're able to spend all this money to get politicians to do your bidding, why can't you use that towards needs for people here? Like, I don't know, like universal health care or a living wage or paid family leave. Hell, maybe even reparations for Black people, since a lot of these Zionists claim that we support Black people and like what their rights, but we had the discussion with Indy a few weeks back, you know, like a lot of Zionists / Jews or liberal Jews claim, oh, we support rights for Black people, but are not necessarily in the fight towards Black issues in that way. So it's just kind of like, this money has been so wasteful in terms of bending politicians in the will of doing stuff for Israel versus actually using that money, if you're going to do it, actually use it towards benefiting the populace here. I don't know. Am I crazy in thinking that that's what this money should be used? Or,
well, I mean, the issue is that would never happen from that entity, you know?
No.
Like, this is a lobbying group and a PAC solely designed to, you know, corrupt politicians. So, and they don't have to be listed as foreign agents, right?
Right.
You know, the last guy who wanted that to happen got a bullet through his dome. So, you know, yeah, Leon in the chat, why would Zionists spend money on Americans? Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Right.
I feel your thing too. It's like, would be nice if that's what happened, but,
right.
You know,
anyway, let's keep going. Bowman, who was endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America, was first elected in the progressive wave in 2020, defeating longtime Democratic Representative Elliot Engel. Notice how they also didn't say here, it's not just Democratic Socialists, and it wasn't just Justice Democrats. Jamaal Bowman was also endorsed by J Street, which is, if you think of AIPAC as like the far right extremist PAC, J Street is more of the liberal centrist PAC in terms of the Israel lobby. Yeah. So, and actually, just doing some research on this, I found out that they were endorsing Bowman up until the beginning of this year. So, you know, like, I think they tried to both sides, him not being happy with him in terms of the turn that he made towards Israel. Again, we'll get into that later. But they were still basically endorsing the man up until, I believe, January of this year, I believe it was, that they withdrew his endorsement from him. But yeah, like, Bowman was getting money and being endorsed by another pro-Israel lobby. So, and again, I want to say that because no one is saying that. Like, yeah, AIPAC, I would argue, was an issue question mark, but J Street was the group that has basically corrupted Bowman directly. And it's sad that that is not being reported on. Anyway, this time his critics encouraged registered Republicans and people not enrolled in the party to become Democrats in order to participate in a closed party primary. And a coalition that backs the interests of Yeshiva spent more than $1 million throughout the race to register 2,000 Republicans and independents as Democrats. Bowman has called for a ceasefire and criticized President Joe Biden for providing the weapons to Israel in the wake of October 7 terrorist attacks by Hamas. Excuse me. He also questioned whether sexual violence occurred during those attacks and later apologized. And Latimer himself charted a cautious approach towards Israel. He traveled, Latimer, to the country at the end of 2023, shortly before declaring his bid for the House seat. He has also condemned Hamas for the civilian deaths in Gaza as Israel bombarded the enclave and pressed for a return of hostages kidnapped during the October attack. But Latimer has been careful not to criticize Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for much of the campaign and declined to weigh in on Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's call for a new Israeli government. DMFI PAC, which spends $425,000 on TV ads boosting Latimer's bid, called this victory the outcome of smart politics on both Israel as well as core Democratic Party concerns.
Mm-hmm.
These results also validate President Biden's vision for a mainstream and inclusive Democratic Party, as well as the Biden-Latimer approach, bringing people together to achieve important results like the infrastructure law that is rebuilding our crumbling roads, bridges, and water systems, DMFI PAC Chair Mark Wellman said.
Yeah, because
Allies
that's what
of
he's been
Latimer
doing.
Yeah, well, lastly we checked, there's a bridge in Baltimore that collapsed.
Uh-huh.
That is currently in the process of being rebuilt.
A couple of trains blown up. You know, don't worry about it.
Allies of Latimer insisted Israel was only one factor in their argument against Bowman, a former middle school principal. Bowman's antagonist charged he was not present in the district during his 2 terms, and that his pulling of a fire alarm during a House vote was an embarrassment. His vote against a key infrastructure spending package became fodder for during the campaign as well. Latimer, the Westchester County executive, has spent decades in local and state elected office, making him a familiar face for Democratic voters and an unusually formidable primary challenger for an incumbent lawmaker. He received endorsements from an array of party officials, elected leaders, and local labor movements. I'm going to pause right here. I think if you read that in passing, you wouldn't think much of that. But this is the stuff that I've been saying, and this is the stuff I've been telling you and Indy kind of like privately.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that you need to do in order to run for office. What do I mean by that? Like, we see a lot of people who just go into office with no, I wouldn't say any experience. I wouldn't say necessarily need experience, but you're not affiliated necessarily with an organization or some type of local or state position like councilman, whatever, state senate, whatever, and be able to build your name in terms of the stuff that you do within your city, your town, or your state. Like, the fact is, whether you like it or not, Latimer has had a name for himself in these roles and I didn't check, but at least long enough that he was able to make a name for himself. So the fact that now this came the time where people were looking to boot out Bowman, they were looking to him based on the things that he was able to accomplish. Not sure if they were good things, but at least he got his name out there. And he got that name out there over the context of years. So this is the kind of stuff that I think we need to be looking more for in terms of organizing. Like the idea that you have to build that rapport over time. Like, you can't just come in and kind of say, oh, I don't like this person, so I'm just going to vote against them, when people have no idea who you are, have no idea what you stand for, and can't see a body of work to, justify you wanting to be in higher office. So I think that's very significant in terms of that was, among other reasons, that he was easily corruptible. But you can make the case that at least he was a person that people knew within the district for God knows how long, that he was essentially selected in the position to, oust Bowman out of his Congress seat. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I just feel like this is the kind of stuff that we need to be talking about. I think definitely after
my
this
only
election
issues
is
with that
over.
a lot of times, especially when it comes to like labor unions and stuff like that, is like the minute you start engaging with people who even want to run as politicians, you are politicizing your union or other organization. And if that's something you don't want to happen, so that you can work across aisles and across political labels and so on and so forth, it's a difficult line to like, walk. So, that's my only
I think
qualm there.
Yeah, I think you made a good point in terms of if you're going to work for an organization or to build your profile, I think it's important that you do not make it a political stance. It's the idea of like,
you're there to work
way.
at that to further that cause, and that should be your only goal.
Right. But
So-
it just goes to show, if you're in the right position for a long enough time and you're able to build a body of work that will make you credible, at least to the people, not for corporations, then that should be the thing that should elevate you for people to recognize you as a leader in terms of, federal Congress or Senate or whatever. So, yeah, I just thought that was very significant because I think people are not necessarily talking about that. I know we have, but I think this is one of the rare cases that it's not like somebody that AIPAC or anybody just asked out of the blue. It was a person that has been in the community, is well known in the community, has worked within the community, that was called to oust Bowman. So anyway, let's continue. Bowman came into the race with some big advantages. The district lines were redrawn slightly in his favor, and the House Democratic Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries of New York, endorsed him, but offered very little visible support after. That was left in the final days of the race to prominent left-leaning Democrats like AOC and Bernie Sanders, who rallied with Bowman on Saturday. Bowman insisted his campaign was built around lower-income people of color in the district who had been ignored by elected officials. He drew support from a constellation of left-leaning organizations that play key roles in progressive politics, including the Working Families Party and Make the Road Action. The WFP on Tuesday said it spent $506,000 on advertising, a fraction of the money that poured into aid Latimer's campaign. Combined, Bowman's allied organizations spent $1.75 million. Jesus Christ, like all that money just going towards advertising and marketing that can actually be used to help people. Jesus. Anyway, and in the home stretch, Bowman said AIPAC and its backing of Latimer was fueled by racist MAGA Republicans. Didn't Hillary Clinton endorse Latimer?
I'm betting.
She did.
Okay.
She did. So, and that's another talking point. It's like, all these MAGA Republicans are going against Bowman. No, it's your own party. Like, Jeffries basically threw you out in the wolves. Hillary Clinton endorsed your opponent. And so you got no support from the party that you were trying to be all in kiki with, like all of this time.
How many members of the Democratic Party are in bed with AIPAC? Like, it's both, it's not, I think this is the things that he still has to fucking upkeep a, like, duopolist mindset. So, it can't be the Democrats, gotta be Republicans. You know, they would never harm little old Jamaal Bowman. They would never do something like that. You know, he pulled the fire alarm for them, remember? That's what he did.
Right.
Like, they would never. Yeah. I just, okay. You know, like my,
Anyway, I'm an outspoken black man, Bowman said during the final TV debate on PIX 11. If we can get that on the soundboard, we should pull that too. I'm an outspoken black man. His supporters don't want that because it challenges their power. Bowman backers acknowledged that Latimer's retail politicking skills and the massive spending on his behalf created an imposing challenge. But they also insisted the success against one squad member will be hard to duplicate in other parts of the country. They found an old-time elected official who is willing to be bought, Working Families Party co-chair Anna Maria Archuleta said, but they will not be able to replicate that everywhere. Well, we'll see about that in terms of Cori Bush. So, granted, they haven't spent, from what we just saw, like as much money yet, but it's June. So that's not to say that they're not going to ramp up their spending against Cori. And I know her challenger is also a Zionist naturally as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're going to be tempting him with some money too, if they haven't already, to make the case against her. But yeah, so I think I'm done with this. Let's read what Do This and It said. I'm going to pull up some tweets. It wasn't the 14.5 million in ads that sank Bowman. Bowman lost because, one, rich Zionist scum Democrats in Westchester County love Israel, hate Arabs, and are totally unbothered by the mass murder of innocent children because they're worthless pieces of human shit. Two, Bowman is a feckless idiot coward who didn't have the brains or the balls to serve in a way that would have kept his base behind him. And so when AIPAC came for him, he was a sitting duck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is stealing from Keaton.
What?
Doing his traditions.
Oh, funny stuff.
Okay. Friend of the show, Brett Wilkins, also tweeted, now that he's lost, I'll say it, and the same goes for any Democrat who endorses Biden. Jamaal Bowman is complicit in Israel's Gaza genocide, and all that this implies. Sorry, but the truth hurts.
Yes, it does.
So let me just check. So yeah, so pull this from Post-Duopolis. So let's take a trip down memory lane and see the fuckery that Bowman committed during his last two terms in office. Because the idea now is like, poor Bowman, like AIPAC defeated him. Oh, we have to protect him. Like we need him there because he's a progressive or whatever. I said this to you. People have very short memories. Like 2 years ago, like especially since we started INN and we started INN News, we've been having it. Me personally, have been having it out for Bowman, like since we started this show.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for me personally, because he spoke at my event at the organization I'm a part of, I think now 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2, I forget. Which I had it out then that we talked about here. But Post-Duopolis made a great tweet that talks about some of the things that he did that shouldn't justify the fact of him basically staying in Congress. So you can play it.
New squadron with Cori Bush, Jamaal Bowman refused to back Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Except
that was at the beginning.
Whether he would vote for Pelosi, voted for Pelosi. Squad splits on Capitol Police funding, letting bill pass by one vote.
And more to come. Clown, thug, crook,
Military aid for Ukraine. Didn't know where the Donbass and Crimea. Bowman said voting for extra dome funding won't stop fighting from Palestine. So, yeah. So, and I'm going to go off on this later, but there's a lot of people who are Arab, allegedly, are now saying, oh, you know, like, yeah, Bowman made a mistake in terms of voting, but he changed his ways. Like, in him going to Israel and seeing what was happening, and then he completely changed course. And I've been saying to people, like, I do not need to go to Israel to understand what's happening there in order to understand that I should vote no on the Iron Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I shouldn't need to go all the way to Israel in order to have that Jesus moment. And being that he was a Justice Democrat / part of DSA, that was in their bylaws that they needed to be BDS. So the fact that you basically went, so it just shows me two things. It either was DSA and Justice Democrats did not have any kind of coalition with these people in terms of what their job was, what their mission was, and how they can be aligned in that way as far as an organization. Or Bowman just didn't give a damn and was willing to take J Street money because, and I think he basically said he didn't want to seem like he was going against Israel. But in doing that and voting for the Iron Dome, you essentially kill children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, those children are not coming back, even though you saw the error of your ways. You can't bring them back. So Iron Dome is known as defense, but we're seeing the defense that Israel is doing right now.
I'm sorry, Colin. A thing that can shoot rockets that hit other incoming missile rockets can't be used offensively? You don't think that that's possible?
Right. But that was some of the excuses I saw people online making, was like, oh, like,
right. If that wasn't there and Iran's missiles were hitting Israel right now because of the genocide, do you think Israel would continue doing that said genocide? No. So who's the one who kept that running?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's also not the only defense bill he voted for. So, you know, like, how many times he voted for a spending bill that sent money to Ukraine, Israel, you know, like, been a couple of those. So, okay. But I don't know if you remember, Colin, but way back when you went to an event.
When? This was last year. Time last year.
That's a ways back.
So remember when I paid that $75, right? That $75 to go to this squad event in DC.
Oh my god, I forgot you paid fucking $75.
Yes, I paid $75. I got some content.
And I think people actually donated enough to make that back for you, so...
Yes, they did.
You know.
So thank you to the people in the chat who were around last year to help me recoup that.
This is the kind of stuff your donations get you, is responses like this to fucking idiots.
Right. So I want to play this again because I saw a lot of people basically being like, oh, well, again, like Bowman, he saw the error of his ways and he changed and he was advocating for us and all this kind of stuff. This was the time of the bullshit that he was saying last year. Now, to give some context, he was talking about black crime here.
Yeah.
But so this was prior to October 7th. But look at what he was saying back then. Again, this was last May. So go ahead. You can play it.
the majority of Congress does not have a sense of urgency as it relates to doing something about this issue. Everybody's just going about their business, going about their day, in their nice suits, going to fundraisers, raising money, getting reelected, and they're not doing shit. Like, why are we negotiating with them on anything if they don't want to do anything about gun violence? Why are we negotiating on any issue? Any issue? If we have people in Congress that are okay with our children being killed, and gun violence being the #1 killer of children in America.
But you don't have a problem with Palestinian
Israeli
children
guns.
being killed.
Israeli guns are fine, Colin. Israeli guns are perfectly fine.
Right.
You know.
We have lost our soul as a nation. And so when I process all of this consciously and subconsciously,
Why? When you weren't able to sleep at night?
before I came out and started yelling at reporters to ask Republicans what the hell are they going to do about gun violence? Which is
What about
led
the
to
Democrats?
massive-
What are they going to do about gun violence? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They going to spend more and send more guns to Ukraine? We going to fight
They
more
spend more
wars
money
in
on the police
Syria,
here.
Lebanon? Like, coups in South America? What?
addressing me and then us having that back and forth. But for me, you know, as I hear everyone speak on the issues that we're fighting for, I'm really grateful and appreciative to them and all of us and all of you. But I'm also like, damn, yo, like we gotta take over this whole shit. Like, and I mean right now, like right now, like 2024 is a wrap. It's not just taking back the House. We got to grow seats in the Senate. We've got to drag this 80-year-old man across the finish line of the win.
Excuse you? Huh?
Right.
What was that? Like,
we got to grow seats in the Senate. We've got to drag this 80-year-old man across the finish line of the win.
Why?
Why? I'm sorry, man, but I'm upset, yo. Because here's the other thing, right? It's like,
Why Biden?
I know, right?
Why?
I know.
You know the thing.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Why? Why?
That was me saying why, by the way.
Bro, and it's not like you were screaming either. It was like, there's only like fucking 10 people in that room, dog. You're like, Brad could be like, why? 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 Why Biden? That was the biggest part. Like, you had to say that. If it was just why, he could have just kept talking. But because you said Biden, he's like, oh shit. Well, I guess I gotta address that. So
bad cookies. No, I didn't get kicked out.
No,
I didn't get kicked out.
you got to
but I
ask some
got
more
warning.
questions later.
I got warning that if I kept that up, that I was going to get kicked out. But I just got so heated as they did more of this stuff that I left on my own. So no, I didn't get out. I walked out eventually, like sometime after this. So that's not all I got.
No.
So shout out to Gachin Girl. You guys might know her on Twitter. She also had probably a better confrontation with Bowman in her district, by the way. And she confronted him. So again, she was talking about Israel before, so June 25th. So I believe she was talking to Bowman about this before October 7th. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I know Sabby had this clip, so I pulled it. But she asked Bowman, she confronted Bowman regarding Israel. So, so you can play. I think I timed it, so you could play this clip.
Our Right now, it's not live. Listen to what I'm saying. You just want to say what you want to say. Listen to what I'm saying, please.
You need the dialogue.
Oh, you know, listen. You asked me a question, I answered. Now I'm giving you some feedback, some advice. If you want it or not, you don't have to take it. Okay? I'm in Congress every day. Okay? I see the power of the other side. We don't have that power. When hold on.
Pause. You did for a brief time when you first got into Congress. You did, and you didn't use it. So I hate beating this over a dead horse. That was forced to vote. You had the numbers where you were able to make concessions on anything you wanted. It didn't have to be Medicare for all. And people are always like, oh, you wouldn't have gotten it. It wasn't about getting it. It was about the idea to bring up that media spectacle in order for it to be a big issue, especially during a fucking pandemic. Yeah. When people would have been more concerned about, like, Medicare for all in particular, you could have brought that up. If not that, anything. And you chose not to. So, because you had the power, you chose not to use it. Go ahead.
When I take a stand by myself, me and the squad. There's no one else in Congress with us, and there's not many people outside with us. Are the squad really? Hold on, stop looking to be super critical and listen to what I'm saying. We gotta organize the people here to speak out on the issue and push elected officials here to speak out on that issue.
Which is what she's doing clearly.
We need to make a stand. What did you vote if you did on there?
Time out. Because I'm trying to be strategic and play the long game.
Stop.
Listen.
Stop. I'm trying to. Why did you vote for the Divine Dome? I'm trying to be strategic and play the long game. For whose benefit?
Because
yours?
Putin's a
definitely
madman.
Not Palestinians. As I said, they're dead. You're trying to play the long game for yourself. You aligned with Democrats on that issue because you wanted to protect yourself. The very people that you're trying to help essentially kicked you out. So how did that help you, Bowman?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were doing all this mess, like voting for Pelosi twice, voting for Jeffries, when they had it in for you from the jump. And you refused to go in there in what you were supposed to do to be adversarial against your party. Fuck the Republicans. We know their shit. But Democrats are just as shit, if not worse shit, and you were supposed to combat against them. And the fact that you didn't do that, and even in here, and some people in the chat, how condescending he is, in terms of, I'm doing what I can, what are you doing? That kind of bullshit. That's not her job. Your job is to do something. And honestly, if you were fighting for votes to vote, even if you showed some type of grit there, that might have been enough for people to see that you're working towards something. And people might have given you some credit for that. But you and the squad did not do that when we needed you to. And so as a result of that, what are you going to be known for, Bowman? All you're going to be known now is the idiot that pulled down the fire alarm. That's your legacy now.
Mm-hmm.
Not being a fighter, not even trying to push for these things when you had them, when you had the numbers and you had the Democratic Party by the balls in order to do something. You chose not to do it. And basically, you've been lame ducks for the past couple of years. Go ahead and finish.
The people that are being massacred by Israel cannot wait.
Do you even know what I've done since I've been in Congress on this issue? Do you know anything I've done since I've been in Congress? What have I done? What have I done since I've been in Congress on this issue?
What does that have to do with what you did now?
What have I done since I've been in Congress on this issue specifically? I mean, I'm here. Y'all don't know. So you look for what I didn't do, but you don't look for what I've done. So when
What's the minimum
The
standard?
minimum standard is voting no on
Do you
the
know
iron
Betty
dome.
McCollum's bill that she introduced in 2020?
Doesn't matter. Were you incapable of...
Notice how he won't answer.
No.
Why were you willing to vote
Not only
yes
that,
on
he
the
can't
iron dome?
say.
That is a
He
huge
can't say,
vote.
"Look what I've done," but can't name what he did.
It's all obfuscation. It's what have I done? What have I did?
And you
Why are
can't
you
name
asking
two
this?
things. You
What about
can't
the
name
other
two
stuff that's
things
been
that you
done?
did directly.
No, this is the thing he's acting like he didn't do. For pause. This motherfucker is trying to equate. He voted for the Iron Dome. Okay? She's asking him, why did you vote for the Iron Dome? His reply, why are you focusing on the stuff I've done? Like, he's trying, what about the other stuff that's been done? Right? Like, why are you focused? He literally said a second ago, like, why are you, well, you don't know what I've done. Why are you focusing on what I haven't done? No, she's focusing on what you've done.
You've done.
Oh.
And he said that's one vote.
What about
That
the
one
other stuff that's
vote.
been done? What about...
People are
That
being
one vote could have
massacred.
made a difference in terms of having children, and we're going to go into that later, being killed.
The other stuff that's been done and what I've said.
Does that affect...
You don't even know. You can't even point to my record.
Come on.
She has.
You
You
have
voted
no
for the Iron
record.
Dome. You voted
You
for the
have
Iron
no
Dome.
record.
She's pointing to the fucking record. She's pointing directly to something you've done, and you're like, well,
record that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but you just point on one thing. I can give you five other things I've done.
That's a crucial thing.
I can give you five other things I've actually done.
Are you going to stand against removing all Israel aid?
Yeah, just go. Look at me.
I'll assume that's a no. Yes, I did.
Yeah. But that's the kind of bullshit that you're not going to see on mainstream media.
No.
This is the kind of bullshit that, like, and this is the kind of thing that I saw in Bowman in the interactions that I saw with him. Very condescending, very, like, obfuscate in terms of what he did. And he can't even stand in the shit that he should have been accountable to. So I don't understand why people allow all of a sudden, and granted, they're not going to show this on mainstream media, but I'm getting so sick and tired of people like, we have to defend this man. We have to protect this man. He's working for us. No. Why should he should be protecting us? And let me call out something right now. Bowman, the reason why you fucking lost is that you abandoned the very people that you said you're going to work for. The people in your district, the people in your district who are just going to be like Democratic loyalists, you don't need to fight for them. You would have had their vote anyway. It's the non-voters, the people of color who are so disenchanted with voting and seeing how the system has not worked for them. You, for some reason, were actually able to galvanize them, especially in light of George Floyd. And look, here's the reality too. If George Floyd didn't happen, I'm not sure it could have been 50-50 whether he would have gone in there in the first place. But because he and Cori Bush capitalized on that during that summer 4 years ago, and because their incumbents were shit on the issue, that was probably the thing that took them over the edge as far as winning. And they weren't able to maintain that given how little they were able to fight for the very people that they said that they were going to work for. So, sorry but not sorry, but people should not be giving this guy any mind. He kowtowed to the Democratic Party, I think from what I saw, 90% of the time. And at the end of the day, he was going to tell you to vote for Biden anyway in the midst of a fucking genocide. But he went to Israel and he sympathized with the Palestinians there. Fuck that.
Yep.
Shout out to Nuno. He sent me this 2 hours ago because I was yelling at some Arab, allegedly, who was like, oh, he changed his ways after he went to Israel, and you don't talk to Arabs, and you don't understand what Arabs go through. Well, Nuno's an Arab. Nuno's an Arab, and I talk to him all the time, and he definitely does not agree with the fact, like, he's happy that Bowman's gone. But if you want to hear from another Arab, check out this one. I forgot his name right now, but I think he does a podcast. I forgot. I'll have to check on it just now. But so he's speaking at the very top screen.
Okay. Ali Abumna.
Yeah, so I think it's
Ali
the electronic.
Abunima. Got him, dumb.
Yeah, the electronic intifada. I think that's what it is. I think that's his podcast.
Yeah,
intifada. Yeah. So, so this is what he was saying. So go ahead, you can play it.
In the case of Palestine, while Bowman presented himself as anti-AIPAC, he was very pro-Israel. He defended Israel's right to defend itself, supported Iron Dome funding equated anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, and accused pro-Palestine protesters of being anti-Semitic. So again, you can see how people are reacting to this. And I think the lessons do need to be taken, but I doubt that they people will keep trying to tell us, oh, this is a lesser evil. And some people have been saying, in discussions I've been having online, they've been saying, oh, well, it's not that Bowman was great, it's that we should be opposed to AIPAC for taking out, we should be worried that AIPAC has this power to unseat any member of Congress they don't like. Yeah, that is terrible. But don't ask me when we're struggling to do all the things we need to do to prioritize saving Bowman, to make a point about AIPAC over stopping genocide. The only goal should be stopping the genocide, not saving, fake progressives who are really not doing anything for us. So I know people's views on that differ, but we were told by even some people in our community, oh, Joe Biden is the lesser evil. Joe Biden brought us a Holocaust, the Holocaust of our time. Yeah. That's what lesser evilism brings. So, people say, well, what should we do? I mean, I don't give advice on voting. It's not what I want to do or where I want to go. But what I want to say is that maybe the answer isn't there. Maybe we can't vote our way out of genocide, especially not by voting for the party that brought us genocide. So maybe different strategies are what we need to be talking about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you're saying there.
Yeah.
We need a different strategy. We cannot vote our way out of, he said genocide, but fill in the blank.
Anything.
And I seriously hope after this election, after the fuckery that's going to happen in this election within the next few months, that we're in independent media will be able to have those serious conversations. What would it look like to engage people without them necessarily going into electoralism? And look, and I'm going to say this again, I'm not opposed to electoralism, but it has to happen within the context of organizing, making sure that people are aligned with what they need, and having politicians come to us to ask us, what do you want? Like, we shouldn't be begging and pleading for our politicians to do shit and voting for them and hope that they're going to do it for us. That's not how, and that's the system that we've been succumbed to for definitely for our lifetimes. And that's the thing that Bowman, as a Justice Democrat, was supposed to kind of break, but he ended up falling in that trap as well. So basically, the only thing I could say to him is, bye, Felicia. Like, I do not feel sorry for him being gone. And you and people in the chat or online shouldn't feel bad for him either. Like, he will be just fine. You will not be, especially if we end up getting Trump. So yeah.
You're done. You're done.
I am done.
Hated it.
No, you loved it. So so anyway, if you want me to continue ranting like this every week, please feel free to scan that QR code, or you can check the link that you see, kofi.com/indienewsnetwork. All of your funding will go towards us. There won't be any cuts at all. YouTube does demonetize us, and they would have taken 30% of your money anyway. So please feel free, if you would be so kind, definitely donate to us with the code, or you can go to the description and see all the links of where you can donate to the network. Don't forget to also like, share, and subscribe our channel because we are heavily demonetized. YouTube hates us, and they push us way down into the bowels of the algorithm to make sure that none of our content is being presented on the platform. Yes. So, so the only way that we can even make the attempt to actually have our work being shared is by you. So please like, please share, please leave a comment. Those do count. Those do help with the algorithm. More importantly, help us get to, you say 3K, we're going to push it up. Let's help us get to 5K. Thank you guys, especially within the last week, getting us to our 2K goal. But we want to see now if we can get to 5K relatively soon. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Whoever you are, thank you.
So I guess Gray Zone is finishing up their stream, so
Yeah. Sounds like we got
might be having more
all the audience to ourselves, and you ain't going nowhere. Nowhere. All right.
Want to check Rockfin?
Yep.
And I'll
I'm
check.
leaving that in the chat for people. That's not it. Rumble. Rockfin. Hawan. No one on Rumble yet. I guess it's all lizard people. No one with opposable thumbs in the chat. No one knows how to type. And Rockfin people are probably not even sure it's working, but I do believe it is. So go over there, check on the Rockfins. Make sure you're leaving us some chats over there. Would be nice. Alright, let's check normal chat. Well, Bowman will have more time to work on his bench press now. Sure.
Sure.
He might need more leg day, though. I bet he skips leg day. He seems like a guy who skips leg day, I'm just saying.
I will say, though, given, Bowman and I have similar builds, I probably have the same type of build as Bowman does. So,
yeah, I mean...
don't
count
let
those plates.
Huh?
We can count those plates. We can... You'll get there.
In 3 years.
Nah, dude. Nah, dude, we'll just put you on bench press duty. We can beat his bench.
I mean, I have to check, but I think I bench press right now 110 now.
What you need to do is figure out how much Jamaal and Bowman weighs, and then get your hip thrust up there. Where is people was talking about? Was that the Black View? In regards to that fundraising event.
Sure.
So,
it felt like it, definitely. So, yeah.
Yep. We had the Hawk Tool girl in the stream. Nice to see you coming out. Good to have you here. Anyway, you got another story.
Yeah, I got all the stories tonight. So, except for the last one. So, as I said, all you have to do is just sit back and look pretty and comment.
I'm fine with that. I can read some stuff if you want me to. I'm fine with that too.
I think definitely for the last segment, I'm sure you have a lot to say regarding that. So
sure.
So definitely save it for.
I don't mind reading the Hind stuff either. I'm fine with that. So
yeah, that's fine. I don't think there's really much to read for these next two segments anyway, but we'll see. I might ask you to come in if I'm getting a little tired. So. But anyway, so yeah, I want to talk about this story because this kind of came on my radar within the last 48 hours, and I think it's very interesting. And this is probably a story that we will probably follow. But so apparently this happened back in May, where Biden declared Kenya to be an unofficial ally of NATO. So what does that mean, you may ask? Well, Africa Stream is going to tell you exactly what that means. and the implications of what is happening in Kenya right now that kind of overshadow this. So let's get into it.
Since gaining independence in 1963, Kenya has been like a pretty African girl enjoying the attention of two suitors. US-led Western group of nations wooing her with wealth and might, and the Russia-China bloc with its promises of a new multipolar world. Previous Kenyan governments forged economic and cultural ties with Washington and London, but at the same time built cordial relations with Russia and China. President William Ruto's decision to have Kenya side with the US as a non-NATO ally marks a significant shift away from the country's previous non-alignment policy. The move raises questions on what Kenya stands to gain and potentially lose by aligning with the US and its foreign policy enforcer, NATO. First, here's what Kenya will lose. The BRICS trade alliance in major developing economies looks set to become even more dominant, with numerous countries desperate to be let in. But Kenya will miss out by opting for the empire of sanctions and tariffs. In the long term, BRICS is a place to be if you're looking for cheap oil and gas to run your country. BRICS now accounts for 32% of the world's natural gas output and 43% of crude oil. With future expansion, BRICS hopes to transform global energy markets by introducing a non-dollar currency for trade settlements. And don't forget all the juicy trade and infrastructure deals members will benefit from. In future, Nairobi will now likely have to get the nod from Washington before it can proceed with any foreign policy decisions. Or in other words, Kenya has surrendered its sovereignty to the US. And here's what Kenya will gain by going to bed with the US.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Nairobi will get some of the $200 million funds pledged by Washington for the deployment of 1,000 Kenyan police officers to Haiti to restore order to the troubled island nation. Kenyans and Haitians largely don't support this mission, and it's hard to see how Kenya will pacify Haiti when it's got its own bandit problems at home. Kenya will get new toys to fight terrorists in the region, but that might not translate into success on the ground. According to one report, terrorism increased by jaw-dropping 100,000% in Africa during the US war on terror. Our Sahel brothers know a thing or two about this, and that's why they have ordered Washington to pack up and leave the region. Maybe it's their example Ruto should follow. Nairobi will get money from trust funds to speed up investments in clean energy. But how will the transition work if you hedge your bets with a country that slaps 100% tariffs on China's electric vehicles simply because it can't compete? Kenyan firms can bid on contracts to repair and maintain US equipment used in the continent. They can also provide storage and logistical services for US military operations for a fee. But does Kenya really want to dance on the graves of Libyans killed by NATO in 2011, not counting the other victims of NATO's imperialist wars around the world? Given what's on the table, whose flowers would you take? As for Kenya, our choice has been made.
What does that sound like to you? Or
Sounds
what does
like
this remind you of?
fucking every colonial problem ever.
Right.
You know, plenty of South American countries, plenty of African countries. So, I mean, right now, places like Burkina Faso and stuff like that have been pushing back, no? You know? Yeah. Like, trying to get rid of those colonizing chains, you know? So, right. And as long as those chains don't, you know, find some U.S. military aid to come send your way. It wasn't Kenya also sending places to Haiti?
Oh, we're going to get into that.
Okay. I figured.
We're going to get into that. But just to give you an idea, so basically Kenya is
gaining independence.
Kenya is now essentially the West bitch, essentially. And in the midst of all of that, if you go into the slide now,
yep.
There are massive protests happening in Kenya right now. You probably might have seen some of this on Twitter yesterday. So Kenya's president, Ruto, calls protests treasonous after police fire live rounds at demonstrators. This article is from CNN. Not going to read who read it, but according to CNN, Kenyan President William Ruto denounced protests on Tuesday that saw Parliament stormed and at least 5 people shot dead as treasonous, but did not address the swelling outrage against a controversial finance bill that sparked the widespread demonstrations. Kenya is in the grip of nationwide protests against the proposed tax hikes, culminating in Tuesday's total shutdown of the country, which quickly turned violent as police used tear gas and live rounds on protesters. The controversial finance bill has unleashed widespread protest movement vowing for 7 days of raids. So in other words, this is their version of January 6th, basically, if you want to look at it that way. Last week, the government scrapped some tax increases, including a proposed 16% added value tax on bread, along with taxes on motor vehicles, vegetable oil, and mobile money transfers. But the concessions have not been enough to quell protests amid the rising cost of living. So we'll play this clip from CNN. Shout out to Case Study QB for pulling it. It will give a little bit more details surrounding the protests in Nairobi. So you can go ahead and you can play the whole thing.
Yep, working on it.
All right, there is breaking news. There's smoke billowing out of the Parliament building in Kenya's capital and shots fired at protesters in the streets. This all started with a demonstration by people angry at the growing cost of living. They breached at least part of the Parliament building. CNN's Larry Madowo is in the middle of it all. Larry, give us the latest.
John, we're outside Kenya's City Hall. This is the office of the governor of Nairobi. This is just a few hundred meters away from Kenya's National Assembly, and it's on fire. This is one of the few buildings around here that we've seen smoke billowing out of. The Parliament building was one of them, and this is the other one. Before I get inside, I just want to show you over here. Police have been pushing back the protesters further and further away from Kenya's Parliament. After they breached the floor of the House, they got inside, sat on the Speaker's chair, and pulled out the mace from that building. Now they're getting pushed back away. The anger here is over the high cost of living. These protests are part of what is called 7 days of rage against overtaxation in the country. The government of President William Ruto has recommended new tax proposals in what is known as the finance bill. And these protesters, many of them young people, organizing on TikTok, this Gen Z revolution, so they're calling it, has been very vocal in trying to force the government to do something and to reduce the cost of living. This is the scene inside where the government of Nairobi, the city of Nairobi, the capital sits, and this is the scene in here. You see a writing on the wall here? I was here, reject finance bill. That's been the message of these people for the past few weeks. But this momentum has built over the past few days as the government of President Ruto essentially said that they would be listening to the concerns of these young people and trying to engage them, but they don't feel that the government has been paying enough attention to them. And it's all come to a head in these protests. And today we saw an extraordinary scene with Auma Obama, the half-sister of former President Barack Obama, joining these young people here in the protests. And she was tear-gassed while live on CNN. And she said, all the young people are saying is listen to us, John, and the government does not seem to be paying attention.
And Larry, I know you also saw people hurt. Maybe more than hurt on the streets. Describe some of what you saw.
We did see at least 2 bodies lying outside Kenya's parliament. In one most heartbreaking scene, it was a young man who had been shot by live rounds right in front of our eyes. His brains shattered on the floor outside Kenya's parliament. We saw at least one other young man who had also been killed after we saw police use live rounds outside Kenya's parliament to try and beat back protesters who made their way to the wall and eventually inside Kenya's parliament. CNN has reached out to the police to understand exactly what happened here and to get an updated number of casualties. We have not heard back from the Kenya police yet, but this is the scene leading to Kenya's parliament. You still see a huge security presence just around this National Assembly area. I would say we have probably 300, 400 police officers, water cannon trucks. We've had police choppers flying overhead. A huge, heavily militarized response to what has been largely peaceful protests against the high cost of living in Kenya.
Extraordinary images of Nairobi City Hall on fire with you walking right in, and the Parliament seized there for a moment as well. Larry, please stay safe. Keep us posted as this continues to develop throughout the morning.
So basically, the protests there in regards to, just people are pissed off that they're being taxed in terms of higher cost of living. So now they're, so they're showing up and showing out. So yeah, let's continue with the actual article. A CNN team saw 2 bodies lying motionless on the ground in Nairobi as the country's parliament was breached. Kenyan police were also seen beating and later arresting some paramedics who are helping injured protesters. During a nationwide address after Parliament was set alight, Ruto said the events on Tuesday were a grave threat to national security and that the conversation around the bill had been hijacked by dangerous people. It is not in order or even conceivable that criminals pretending to be peaceful protesters can rain terror against people, their elected representatives, and the institutions established under our Constitution and expect to go scot-free, the president said, adding that democratic expression and crime must be isolated from one another. So, sounds like you can protest, but not this way.
Yeah.
Is what they're saying. He's saying. So, sounds like Biden in that regard. Okay. The use of live bullets must now stop, the statement said. Despite the assurance by the government that the right to assembly would be protected and facilitated, today's protests has spiraled into violence. Human rights observers and medical officers have reported several instances of human rights violation. The demonstrations sparked by the Finance Bill 2024 have seen citizens rally under the banner of 7 days of rage as the nation faces more days of upheaval. The dramatic scenes that unfolded in the nation's capital saw government buildings set on fire and a ceremonial mace stolen from Parliament in the melee. Kenyan lawmakers were evacuated from Parliament as police were up against protesters, CNN affiliate NTV Kenya reported. The protests come as Kenya's standing gains global prominence as U.S. President Joe Biden designated the country a major non-NATO ally on Monday, marking the first time a sub-Saharan African nation has received this status. In May, Biden announced his decision to elevate Kenya to this designation while hosting President Ruto at the White House for a grand state visit, celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations between the two nations. Tuesday also saw hundreds of Kenyan police officers arrive in Haiti's capital to lead a multinational mission to support Haiti's national police in battling deadly gangs that seized control of much of Port-au-Prince. So you can play this. This is from Breakthrough News, where we can see some of the first officers arriving in Haiti.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. We want this.
So as this is going on, we talked about what's happening in Haiti right now. So for those of you, for the people who, I think that was the segment you produced. So those, if you remember, can you share with the fam, like what's the issue with Haiti right now in terms of, because this relates to it. Like there was a cannibal story that you reported on in Haiti that
Yep.
is actually not cannibalism at all, but sounds like it's just more people being galvanized and being more organized in order to push against the puppet president that's currently in Haiti right now, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. So you can zoom out. Thanks. So basically, this is what's going on. So you can zoom out for a second.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, what happened to your? Is your camera okay?
Yeah. I was just making.
I can't see you though.
How about this?
That's good. So yeah, so basically, it's a perfect storm of things happening in Kenya right now. So Kenya is now unofficially part of NATO. Protests are happening in light of life sucking for the working class. And Kenya is essentially being the West bitch in terms of sending their police over to Haiti, as they say, as a mission, but really it's to basically become the West arm in terms of actually having people that look like them being able to facilitate the West doing in Haiti, which it's kind of surprising to me that they're going to choose. I guess you can make the argument that they're willing participants in what they want to do in Haiti, but I'm almost kind of shocked in a way that the West will go as far as asking Kenyans in order to do that. But who knows?
Right.
But so shout out to Indy for pulling this. This might relate, and we're going into speculation territory, but we do think so in terms of the West in dealing with Kenya, that is probably like a more, well, obviously what they're doing is more nefarious, but there probably is a lot more to this decision than what it's necessarily being reported. So this is an article from Substack. If you zoom in, please. That's written by Clandestine. And they report Deep State Bio Network moves to Africa. So this person wrote, Ukraine bio update. New report from Russian MIL alleging that the Pentagon relocated the bioweapon operation to Africa due to Russia's liberation of the labs in Ukraine. Kirov alleges that Biden-owned Metabiota and other intermediary NGOs are running cover for the U.S. State Department and DoD, posing as a humanitarian operation to conceal their true objective of pathogen production for Big Pharma. Kirov also points out that the Biden-owned Metabiota had been forced to stop operating in many countries in Africa due to awareness of their nefarious biological activity and agenda. Also, keep in mind the founder of Biden-owned Metabiota is
Jose Maxwell. Yes, I do. Of course.
And Clinton affiliate biologist Nathan Wolf.
Yeah.
Later in the briefing, Kirov also alleges the U.S. are planning to spread disease via migratory birds. This comes after Kirov previously alleged that the U.S. planned to manufacture another pandemic for the 2024 election like they did in 2020. Bird flu comes to mind.
Safe and effective, everyone. Safe and effective. This is very, very safe and effective.
So this is the consortium that Indy pulled out, and we're just going to look at it real quick. But you can see if you scroll down that there are a few names that are representative of Kenya, as well as other countries in Africa as well. So again, this is speculation. So I don't want to say this as fact, but this kind of makes sense in terms of what we see, happening with the U.S. granting Kenya unofficial NATO status. The fact that, and we've talked about this in the past, of how many military bases are in Africa alone. Like we don't even know how many they are, because some of them are just so secret that we don't even know, but how many there are. But this kind of leads into the perfect storm of, and I said this to Indy yesterday, this just seems like a way for the West to build a wedge between Africa and BRICS. Because given that Kenya would have been a perfect candidate for BRICS, this just seems like a perfect way for the U.S. to infiltrate Africa. And given that Ruto is, as I said, a willing participant in wanting to work alongside the West for reasons that I don't really get. But I kind of feel this is, in a way, that Israel is kind of like a proxy to Iran. I feel like Kenya, if everything is kind of aligning in the way that I think it's going to, or could be the West proxy partially in Africa in terms of them kind of watching over China and Russia. So that's kind of my take on it. What do you think?
I mean, just seems like more NATO fuckery going on, So we'll see. It would be nice if if Africa didn't capitulate to U.S. demands every time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Like I said, I think this is a story that we're going to be watching and we'll give updates, but I found it kind of interesting, you know, especially in light of the protests that are happening in this country right now, that I think it just kind of shows, but I think even with that, it just kind of shows that people are willing to protest on the ready in the global south compared to like how we have to almost beg people to kind of protest here. So, but yeah, like I said, we'll probably do an update once we get more information, but I did want to share that, you know, just to kind of give a little more perspective of what's happening in the world, but also just getting an idea how the West is trying to increase their power and their influence. But I think also mostly to kind of give Russia and China a hard time in terms of like being friendly with the countries that would be very favorable to BRICS and basically swooping in and saying sweet nothings and trying to offer them things that, you know, ultimately is going to benefit the West in the end. But as I said, gotta be a willing participant. So if you enjoy that story and other stories like these, many of them will be demonetized. You can scan the QR code to Ko-fi, or you can go to the link that you see at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're in chat and you type in exclamation point donate, you can get that link if you want to donate to us on Ko-fi. If you also go to our description, you can see where else you can also donate to the network as well. We are heavily suppressed on YouTube, so we would really appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe to the network. Any little bit helps towards getting our network and our names out there. That does help with the algorithm, so they say. So please like, share, and subscribe our work and help us we have 3K, but let's push it to 5. So we can grow our channel and we're able to do more fun things. So
yeah.
So yeah.
You said this, right?
Yes,
you
I
got
did.
this. Cool.
I said all of that. Let's check chat.
Doing that. Sorry, give
Get
me 1 second.
prepped for our next story.
I've been making a scene in the meantime. Where's it at? I just saw it. It is... No. I just had to scroll through my list of things. There it is. Got it. Looky, I made this. You can see, right? There you go. Doesn't that look nice? That looks nice.
Sure.
For vertical video. Because normally it's like stuck in the middle in a weird size. But anyway. Alright, to chats we go. So I was told Indy was gonna co-host, says Nick Rivera. He will be here soon. But I fixed my PC in time.
Yeah, that's why Indy, it would have been Indy and me, because Reef's computer was not working, but he got it to work within an hour before we went live. So he was able to do it, but that helps Indy in terms of putting his kids to bed before we feature our last story, which he really wanted to be here for anyway. So so you'll see him later.
W. Smith says still not loading on Rockfin, so we did talk to Rockfin today. They're supposedly working on it. So
And he's saying Rumble's not live.
It should be. Unless you set this stream up, right? So I didn't check, I just assumed. So let's look at Restream. And fix that, I guess. Because I don't know if you changed the keys and all that stuff.
He said Rockfin is live on his channel.
It should be live on my channel, because I fixed it before not mine, but INN. It is live on INN. Should be. And I don't think I sent it live to Indy's channel. It says it's going to Rumble unless you didn't change the QR code. Not the QR code, but the streamer config. Someone says they're watching on Rumble. So maybe it did Indy's wrong. I don't know. I don't make the rules. Yeah, it says we're live. I think you just gotta refresh. So anyway, alright, you ready for our next story?
Sort of.
Okay. You
So,
want me to read it stuff? I can read stuff.
No, I'm good. This is the last segment anyway for me, so I'm good. It's just that this story is gonna be hard for me personally, and I'm sure it's gonna be hard for a lot of you. There's gonna be a part where we're gonna hear this little girl, so if that might be too much, and then some forensics that will come into play. This might be a segment that you might want to step away from, but I do think it is important. I've been holding on to this for a while. We kind of mentioned, this is Hind Rajab, by the way. This is the song. She is the one who is mentioned in Macklemore's song that he put out, I believe now back in May, or April. But there's more information regarding her death that I did want to share. And I think it's important in terms of knowing what her last few moments in this world are, but also just kind of the lack of just disregard of this little girl in light of what's happening in Gaza, which I think is totally sick. That I felt it was important to talk about her. So God. So this article is from the Middle East Eye. They report forensic architecture probe concludes Israeli tank likely killed Palestinian child Hind Rajab. So they report a UK-based research group published the findings of a forensic investigation on Friday, revealing that Hind Rajab, the 6-year-old Palestinian girl found dead along with members of her family in northern Gaza earlier this year, was most likely killed by Israeli tank fire. This investigation found that the car in which Rajab was killed had been hit with 335 bullets, with most of the entries coming from the right side of the vehicle. The investigation was conducted by Forensic Architecture, Al Jazeera's Fault Lines, and the NGO Earshot. We're going to go into them later. Forensic Architecture said that the gun used for this attack was firing at a range of 750 to 900 rounds per minute, and that this range exceeds that of the AK type assault rifle that's commonly attributed to Palestinian fighters operating in Gaza.
Gotta love a Kalashnikov.
This range of rounds per minute. What's that?
Gotta love a Kalashnikov. They just tend to work.
This range of rounds per minute is consistent with Israeli army issued weaponry, such as the M4 assault rifle or the FN Mag machine gun on a Merkava tank.
We designed that M4 rifle, by the way, so you know.
Right. The probe, using a mix of kinetic analysis, satellite imagery, and footage sourced from the site of the incident, also found that the Israeli tank that fired upon the vehicle Rajab was sitting inside must have been positioned within 13 to 23 meters when it killed Leon, Rajab's 15-year-old cousin. The close proximity means that the tank must have been able to see into the vehicle, with the investigators concluding It's not plausible that the shooter could not have seen that the car was occupied by civilians, including children. From the tank position indicated by the greatest alignment between entry and exit holes, we concluded that the shooter would have had a clear view of the car and its passengers, the investigation said. In other words, they would have been aware of the presence of 2 children. The investigation refutes the claim by Israel denying responsibility for the killing and said that Israeli forces were not present in the area of the time of Rajab's death. Rajab was found dead on the 10th of February this year in northern Gaza after nearly 2 weeks of being trapped inside a car with her family while being surrounded by Israeli military forces and being subject to Israeli fire. Youssef Zeno and Ahmed al-Madoun, 2 paramedics set to rescue Rajab after she was called pleading for help from inside the vehicle, which was under Israeli fire, were also found dead. The last time that rescue workers heard from Rajab was on the 29th of January. Her mother, Wissam Rajab, previously told Middle East Eye the family was separated when they tried to flee the area, which was under intense Israeli attacks. Due to poor weather, Wissam had put her daughter in the vehicle along with extended relatives, while the rest of the family fled on foot. After hearing gunfire in the area, the family called the Red Crescent to tell them the car was getting shot at. Initially, Wissam thought everyone in the car was killed until she got a call from Leylan Hamadeh, Hind's 15-year-old cousin, saying, "Hind and I am wounded, and all my family is dead. I don't want to die. Please call an ambulance to save us. I'm scared. The tanks are 500 meters away from me." The line went dead, and Wissam thought they had both been killed. But when she called again, Hind answered and said, "I'm alive, but Leon was martyred. Mom, I'm afraid. They are all dead. Come and get me." Earlier this year, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society released an audio recording of the last phone call with Hind, during which her final pleas can be heard amid the rattle of the gunfire. "I'm scared of the dark. Come get me," she said.
Ugh.
Her death became a symbol of pro-Palestinian protesters all around the world. At Columbia University in New York City, student demonstrators took over and occupied a building on campus and renamed it Hind's Hall in honor of Rajab. On the 6th of May, American rapper Macklemore released a song titled Hind's Hall, both to memorialize Rajab as well as the ongoing Gaza Solidarity encampments being erected on university campus across the U.S. I am going to play that clip, the video of the phone call.
Okay.
So if people need to step away, I suggest you do that now and come back within the next, I'll say, 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think I probably want to have you read the subtitles to this, Reef, if you don't mind.
No, I can do that.
But yeah, so this is what the Red Crescent released with Hind. This is the last few moments, that she, that we hear her on the phone. So you can go ahead, Reef, and play.
Yeah, I'm just fixing our news screen. Cool. They are dead. Are they dead?
ميتين؟
Yes.
وهم هلا معك
Are they in the car
بالسيارة؟
with you now? Yes.
انت هلا وين متخبية هلا؟ وين انت هلا محمية؟
Where are you
Now,
hiding?
where are you hiding?
In the car.
السيارة انت صح؟
You're in the car right now,
السيارة.
not outside.
طيب خليكي يا
Stay in
عمر
the car.
بالسيارة. أنا حتمني فاتحة الخط معاكي.
I'm going to stay on the
أتمني أحكي
phone
معك.
talking
ما
to
بدي
you.
أسكر التليفون
I won't
تمام؟
hang up, okay? The tank is next to me.
الدبابة وين؟
Where's the tank? Next to me.
الدبابة جنبكم؟
Is the tank near you? Yes.
ما عم تتحرك
Is it
ولا
moving or
واقف؟
is it
نزل حدا
still?
منها؟
Did someone get out of it? Yes, it's moving.
تتحرك؟
It's moving?
هي بتتحرك جنب السيارة
Is it moving
ولا هي
next to the
جاية من ورا
car?
السيارة
Or is
أو
it
من
coming from
قدام
behind?
السيارة؟
Or is it coming from in front? From the front of the car. The tank is coming at you from the front? Yes. Is it very close? Yes, very, very close. Is it moving? Yes. Okay, don't be scared. Please stay with me. I'm with you, sweetie. I'm with you. I'm with you until someone comes to take you. I will not leave you alone. When someone comes, you can hang up, okay? What? When someone comes and gets me, you can hang up. No, I want to stay with you until I am very sure one from the crescent or someone came and got you. I won't hang up. Even if the soldiers, God forbid, comes, don't hang up, okay? We don't want to hang up. I'm here with you. Please come take me, please. What, dear? Please stay with me. Darling, I swear I'm with you. I'm here with you, talking to you. I don't even want to hang up. What is the time? What? What is the time? It's almost night. What? It's almost night. I'm scared. Come get me, please. Darling, I swear if I could, I would come and get you. Say Ya Allah. Ya Allah. God protect us. God protect us. Ugh. I mean...
6.
Yeah.
6.
How many of you know a 6-year-old in your life? Imagine you had to make that phone call. This is what we are complicit in. So...
This is what Bowman's vote for the Iron Dome has caused. So I don't give a fuck that he went to Israel and he met Palestinians and he turned his ways. That does not help the fact that he is supportive of Biden, who let this girl die.
Mm-hmm.
That's led over, I'm going to say 50. Because there's no way that could be an accurate count now because they killed all the counters.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say at least 50,000 are dead that we know of. But anyway, so this is more the fuck shit when this was addressed at a press briefing. That this is Matt Miller, right? Like,
yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, he, you know, honestly, they should have showed him this. They should have had him listen to this and have him squirm for his complicity and his lies in terms of what happened to them. But let's see what Matt Miller has to say regarding Hind.
Oh, there you go.
A UK-based research group concluded Israeli tank likely killed 6-year-old Palestinian child, Hind Rajab. Investigation revealed that Rajab's car was hit with 355 bullets, and it's not plausible that Israeli tank couldn't see children inside the car. Have you seen the reports, and do you have any updates on the investigation? It's been more than 4 months, and a lot of my colleagues have been asking about that.
Yeah, so we have seen the reports, and I will tell you what our latest interaction with the government of Israel is about this. So we went to the government of Israel and pressed them for information, and they told us that there were no IDF tanks operating in the area, no IDF forces operating in the area at the time of that attack, which I believe is something they've also said publicly. After further reporting, we went back to them and pressed them again, and so...
But Hind said they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the tank hole in the car leads me to believe, like,
the child said they were.
Yeah.
So, and I think in another clip I saw, he has a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So he should be a little bit more understanding. If your 6-year-old tells you something, that generally you have the more of the inclination to believe what they're saying. So, but because this little girl is not her, or boy, whatever, is not his, he doesn't have to care.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What they told us is that they went to the UN organizations, they went to the Palestinian Red Crescent, they asked for information, because you've seen all of those organizations quoted in stories. They asked for information that they could use to further an investigation, and no one provided them with any information.
Go to hell!
The latest that we have on the
So
case.
who shot the 355 tank bullets?
I'm not able to, look, I'm not on the ground. I can't offer any kind of assessment about this. That's why we've called for we've called for the government of Israel to conduct an investigation. I can't
you know what?
speak
Go
to
back a
what their
second.
internal process.
Go back a second. Go back like 10 seconds. Because I think he made a Freudian slip here.
What their internal processes look like. All I can tell you is what they've all I can tell you is what they've told us, and what they've said is they went to the UN and the Palestinian Red Crescent and asked them to supply information that would help them. And what they claim is that they were given none.
But it's not concluded yet, the investigation, or is it?
No, I would refer you to the government of Israel for that. I can only tell you what they have told us.
Okay.
I think he slipped. I think you didn't go back far enough, but I think he slipped and said we should have an independent study, and then he went into Israel doing it, like the study. So he made a slip right there that there should be an independent study, rather than having Israel investigate themselves and them coming up with nothing. Well, you know what? There is something. So as we said, just have to check. So Forensics Architecture, in affiliation with Al Jazeera, did a study.
Okay.
So they analyzed this. So let's see what they say happened to Hind. There is sound here for this.
Oh. My uncle, his wife, children
were killed in cold blood.
Save her life from Israeli tank fire.
Hind Rajab's case, a 6-year-old child pleading for her life, shocked the world. To understand what happened when Hind and her relatives were attacked, we worked with Forensic Architecture
distinct gunshots
and the audio research nonprofit Earshot to reconstruct the timeline.
So this is a satellite image that was...
Satellite imagery from Planet Labs taken that day shows Israeli tanks up the road from where the family car was parked at the gas station. This is around 3:31 p.m., a little less than an hour after Layen's call with Omar.
We can also see the amassing of Israeli tanks in the area, which are positioned at strategic locations, such as the intersections of roads, so that they have lines of sight along the main avenues and streets in the area.
Crucial to the analysis is the short call between Omar and Layen.
We hear a total of 64 gunshots fired in just 6 seconds.
What we heard on the phone call, is there any evidence of any kind of crossfire in the area?
No, what we're hearing are 64 gunshots that are all similar in characteristics, similar in loudness. The gunshots were happening roughly 74 milliseconds apart. This meant that the gun firing these shots was firing around 750 to 900 rounds per minute, which is in excess of what an AK-47 or a Kalashnikov will fire, which are the most common assault rifles attributed to Hamas. This range is consistent with Israeli army weaponry, such as the M4 rifle or the FN Mag machine gun on a Merkava tank. We can derive that for the shortest interval of 24 milliseconds, the shooter had to be 13 meters away from the phone, and with the maximum interval that we hear, which is 40 milliseconds, the shooter has to be 23 meters away from the phone.
It puts us within a kind of ring around the Kia that's between 13 and 23 meters.
Based off that range from the sound analysis, combined with satellite imagery and photos of the area around the car and gas station, they were also able to examine where the shooting could have come from.
We marked all of the bullet holes that we could see from those images. There are holes which appear to be exit holes, so larger openings that are flared that we witness more on one side of the car than the other. So this gives us a kind of general direction as to the direction of fire. So there's one very distinct line of bullets that we can see at the back, the rear right-hand side of the car, which is a volley of about 30 or so bullets. Well, remember at the end of Fabio's analysis, we saw this ring. And what we're able to do is to superimpose this ring onto the site of the killing. And so we situate the 3D model of the car inside of the site, and we position it in its resting position outside the gas station. And we're also able to model the Merkava tank, and we're able to direct the weapons on the tank towards the car. And this is important because it allows us to draw a line between the guns on the tank and the entry holes that we see on the Kia. So based on positioning the tank in hundreds of places within that ring of 13 to 23 meters, we find that there's a position immediately to the south of the Kia, which appears to be the most likely position of the shooter for this recording.
So from what you've assessed of the Israeli tank position, at that distance, is it likely the Israeli soldiers would have been able to see who was in the car?
We think that it's very likely that they would have been able to see who was in the car, because we know that these tanks are fitted with optical equipment which allows them to see for many kilometers. So yeah, it seems very likely that whatever was going on in the car 13 meters away would have been easily visible.
حبيبتي والله لو بإيدي لأريكي.
صعب كتير صعب والله أصعب شعور في العالم إني أسمع بنتي بتقول لي تعالي خديني
asking me to go get her when I can't reach her, my sweetheart. I swear I couldn't reach you. Forgive me, sweetheart.
سامحيني يا حبيبتي قدرتش أصل لهي.
I couldn't reach her.
Well, good to know I'm not completely emotionally dead inside. Ugh.
Here's the thing with this, though. If this happened here, there would be outrage. So this story has been very repressed, you know, but in spite of that, and honestly, even with us in independent media, I'm very shocked that this story, this child has not been reported on enough. It was one thing to talk about Macklemore, you know, and have this song dedicated to her, which is fine, but like most people may not necessarily know who this child was. But the fact that like she was 6 years old.
Mm.
And the last few moments of her life, she was fearing for her life. And it just makes me mad that this story, of all the stories that we probably have done, has not been reported on enough. It's one thing for mainstream media to not, but it's another thing that even within our space, this has not been shown at all, as far as I know. And it kills me that in this country, we are so apathetic because we don't need to see it. Like, man, we see like a lot of this stuff all the time. Like, you can look at my Twitter feed right now. Basically, I see it's basically like dead bodies or mismangled bodies or burn victims, you know, in Gaza. That's all I'm seeing on my feed. And the fact that like there is not any more outrage over this and just a total disregard from our government, like to basically make the stand to be like, okay, enough is a fucking enough. We're not sending you any more weapons. You're going to investigate this story. People who are responsible for this should be fired. Like you would think that we will have a president who will call for Bibi's head at this point for what happened to this little girl. And I'm sure if she was an American, that would have happened. But because it's a Palestinian, there's a total disregard for her life. Like, you know, someone made a comment I saw on Twitter that, you know, in a way that Anne Frank is memorialized. Hell, like we have to read Anne Frank in school now. I hope that one day it will come to a point where we're able to hear Hind's story in school, because, you know, this is just so sad. Like Indian side said, Richard definitely showed it. Yeah, we know that Richie is gonna show this, but what does it say for everyone else that we know who's not gonna show?
Yeah. You can only lead by example. So, yeah, that sucks. I don't know.
But
shout out to those guys for put together that like 3D model, figuring all that stuff out. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure they'll be attacked and for all sorts of things. So,
well, the science doesn't lie. So,
yeah.
You know, but given that, and even if you think it's Hamas doesn't have tanks.
No.
So,
yeah.
They don't have the kind of firepower that Israel has to be able to shoot a car 300 times, and you'll be able to tell from the ballistics test what kind of bullet gun is being used.
Yeah.
So really the idea is allegedly a tank, please. I think like you know, you can tell it's a tank. We have the technology to make that distinction. So the fact that it's like we suspect
even
it's a tank, like
okay, weird gun nerd, right? I don't know what LMGs or heavy machine guns that Hamas has access to, but I imagine if they're using AKs for everything else, then it's some Kalashnikov derivative. So we're talking RPK, we're talking any of those things. Those have very distinct fire rates. Essentially, that's all the same firing mechanism, Collin, right? Which, like, I think AKs are like 400 BPM, something like that, 140. I actually knew this because I looked it up at one point. But, yeah, that's like very specific fire rates for those weapons. So the fact that they know 300 RPM, BPM, or whatever it was for a second, you know. So, yeah, Nick Rivera's BPM, beats per minute, or bullets per minute, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah. So, but yeah, good on them. I'm sure they'll be demonetized for doing that kind of stuff, just like we are. So, if you want to keep the lights on and keep us talking about this kind of stuff, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, scan that QR code on your screen, or if you're in the live chat with us, put !donate in the chat, and leave us a little super chat that way. I think we got a $2 tip on Indy's Rockfin. which is nice. So appreciate that. Anna Mayer's holding it down over there. That broke my soul. Never saw that video before. I need a drink. Yep. I feel
Same.
that. Yep.
Same.
So.
Same.
Indy saying his Brave browser's not showing the stream on Rumble. Seems to be working on everyone else's. Hopefully. I don't know. If the alternative platforms could figure some stuff out, that'd be great. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the share button. Comment. You know how this works. You know, help us get to 3K. Very easy stuff. Otherwise, thanks for watching. But yeah. So I guess we should take a break, get Indy in here, and be back in a second. No? I think that's how that works. So hang tight, people. You know, don't go nowhere. Don't bite no bodies. You know, play nice amongst yourselves. Be right back, fam.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watched them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.
Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Situated for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face.
Who are these people?
Look at that. We did it. We're here. We figured things out. We've got buttons to do stuff. So, welcome, Indy.
Oh, these people.
Who, there's supposedly some folks.
Who are these people?
Who are they? Anyway, welcome, Indy. It's been a while since you've been on INN News. No? You were supposed to host this stream. What happened? Well, you get lazy? You gave up? Huh? Had to put you got kids to deal with? Some baby mama problem?
Bro, I was just filling in for you. And you fixed your blown up PC. So,
Yep. I fixed it.
I was happy to not have to fill in for you, especially that last story.
Yep.
I'm still trying to recover personally from that one.
Well, at least now you get to talk about something somewhat hopeful.
My audio is super low. Okay, let's see if we can fix that.
Yeah,
Is
I
that me
might be
doing
able to
that?
fix you. Nah, it's probably me.
Maybe
I
it's
just gotta
you because
turn you
Discord.
up in Discord.
You turned me down in Discord because I'm loud and I talk all day and all night. So
Yeah, like probably 80%. Let's try that. If people want a little more, they can ask.
all right, how about this? Why is Indy so quiet? Animairs is asking over on the Rock Fams.
Yeah, because
I'm actually putting it up.
sometimes I have to turn his. Luckily, I have you small so people can't read it. You know.
Boo.
But boo this man. All right, you ready for our last one? I'm ready.
Yep.
Oh,
Cool.
am I ready?
Well, good news, everyone. Assange is free. Well, as free as we can be in this capitalist hellscape. But, you know, gets to walk on his 2 feet, see the sky, that kind of stuff, which is nice. So,
Of all the people that I'm glad, Indy, you're here. And I mentioned this to you earlier. Obviously, I was going to do the story, but I think you are probably one of the few people that I know who has watched. You basically watched this Assange trial from start to finish, even before we had INN, when we were in Discord. That was the first time I think even one of us were aware of who Assange was. And obviously for me, getting to come in connection with Misty and her, advocacy for Assange. But you have been, and Reef, by association, you two have been on it in terms of knowing any itty bitty detail regarding this trial, that even a way that I don't necessarily feel as comfortable talking about. So what better people to talk about this issue than you two? So yeah, I'm glad that you're here to kind of share your take on this in terms of, you know, like what happened, but I think kind of moving forward, what the implications are, you know, for journalism in general and us, you know, who are part of independent media. So,
Well,
but yeah,
you
thank
brought
you for being here.
you brought a Substack.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Substack.
It's been a really emotional few days. Shit, I'm gonna I didn't even see nothing yet. Okay.
Get yourself together, bro.
Okay, so we'll just say that a very close family member of mine was celebrating a birthday on Monday night when this news started to flash across, and I was, to say the least, shocked and distracted to say, wait a minute, is this real? And it was a Washington Post thing that popped up, and all of a sudden I'm on every network and I'm hitting refresh and I'm searching for the people who I know would know what the hell's going on, and I'm not seeing anything yet. And finally I see in my feed Afshin Ratansi, and he's talking. That was before this was even out. Okay, this is the video that was put out by WikiLeaks. But if you scroll down a little bit, Reef, before this even happened, there was a tweet by Afshin Ratansi with a video where he's basically, it's like a 2-minute video where he's saying that I hear that there's a plea deal happening and that he could be freed like as soon as immediately. And we were just like, oh my God.
Right.
And then like 5 minutes later, we get this video from WikiLeaks of him getting on a plane. So that's the first one I saw. Okay. And it was a minute and change, something like that. And that he was one of the last people, I believe, to interview Julian before he got taken. And then we get this tweet from WikiLeaks about him boarding the flight, and play the video with the audio. Yeah, you can unmute it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was just letting it roll.
It's the first time we see him and we hear him moving, and we can't believe it's real, you know, and
well, it'll have a number we don't have.
And this was, again, Monday night in U.S. time, about 8 o'clock in New York City time. We see this video, and I dropped at 12:30. I down, put it into an article. I hadn't really seen it again. Very many people publish it in my world. So I grabbed this, and I grabbed a few other elements, like this tweet from WikiLeaks, which describes it really well. I'll let you read that one.
So, Julian Assange is free. He left Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison on the morning of 24th of June after having spent 1,901 days there. He was granted bail by the High Court in London and was released at Stansted Airport during the afternoon, where he boarded a plane and departed the UK. This is the result of a global campaign that spanned grassroots organizers, press freedom campaigners, legislators, and leaders from across the political spectrum, all the way to the United Nations. This created the space for a long period of negotiations with the U.S. Department of Justice, leading to a deal that has not yet been formally finalized. We will provide more information as soon as possible. After more than 5 years in a 2x3 meter cell, isolated 23 hours a day, he will soon reunite with his wife, Stella Assange, and their children, who have only known their father from behind bars. WikiLeaks published groundbreaking stories of government corruption and human rights abuses, holding the powerful accountable to their actions. As editor-in-chief, Julian paid severely for these principles and for the people's right to know. As he returns to Australia, we thank all who stood by us, fought for us, and remained utterly committed in the fight for his freedom. Julian's freedom is our freedom. More details to follow. So,
fuck yeah. So that was the first tweet that came out. Solitary confinement Crab for 5 years. Okay. Since the day he went in there, they basically put him in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. And he was out for 1 hour. I think it was for exercise, but still he wasn't allowed to go outside during daylight hours because of the nature of his case or whatever they decided to call it. So he literally had not seen the sun in 5 years, according to everyone. I mean, it's so these are the actual court documents. And again, that's a tweet linked, so you can actually bring that up on Twitter from the article and read the 4 pages. All right. These are the actual. This is the plea bargain that he ended up signing, and then pleading guilty to the espionage charge. And that was the deal that he signed.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just, it's, yeah. It was not just this. And then look, it wasn't all sunshine and daisies. And we are so thrilled that he's home, but it came at a steep price. Journalism is now a crime, officially, on the books. And that's what these documents say.
At least handling classified information and publishing it. Specifically.
Which is what journalists do.
Yeah. So
good ones.
Anytime that's ever happened, and I'm sure there's multiple other publications that will have that be a problem. So again, the rule's still out on whether that precedent affects things. I think generally that consensus now is that it definitely does something. We're just not sure yet what that will mean. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be. This is moving towards, and I watched Whitney Webb's analysis on AM Wake Up with T-Lav, and she was talking about how, this is really, it's nice, but what we've given up in the last few years, and then the Supreme Court decision that came with it the morning after, that there is assault on investigative journalism, on exposing the crimes of the powerful. And the fact that they can now go after and criminalize someone for reporting on that and exposing that, and now that is precedent that guilty plea and all. Look,
Yeah,
I don't blame him at all. Not one
Joe
bit.
Lorium,
Go ahead.
Put up this, like, the day of, right? June 24th, a day that will live in infamy, I'm sure. So WikiLeaks publisher left Belmarsh prison on Monday morning and departed the UK, headed to Australia, right? So agreed to a plea deal with the United States. He left Belmarsh on Monday and headed to Australia. He was granted bail by the High Court in London and was released at Stansted Airport during the afternoon, where he boarded a plane and departed the UK. WikiLeaks said in a tweet early Tuesday morning, London time. Stella Assange tweeted, "Julian is free. Words cannot express our immense gratitude to you. Yes, you, who have all mobilized for years and years to make this come true. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Assange was released as a result of a plea deal with the United States, the BBC reported. According to CBS, the BBC's U.S. partner, Assange will spend no time in U.S. custody and will receive credit for the time spent. Assange will return to Australia. According to a letter from the Justice Department, the deal, which will see him plead guilty to one charge, is expected to be finalized in court in the Northern Mariana Islands. New York Times reported that New York Times reported that Assange agreed to the one count of the Espionage Act, conspiracy to disseminate national defense information, in exchange for a 5-year sentence, which the U.S. agreed and had already been served on remand in Belmarsh. So, WikiLeaks released a video of Assange walking on the plane, which you saw a minute ago. Sydney Morning Herald reported a court filing outlines a single criminal count of conspiring to obtain and disclose classified U.S. national defense documents. The newspaper said Assange pleaded guilty to an Espionage Act charge of unlawfully obtain and disseminate classified national defense information. This is the bit I wanted to get to. Bruce Afrin, a U.S. constitutional lawyer, and Marjorie Cohn, former president of the U.S. National Lawyers Guild, both told Consortium News that a plea deal does not create a legal precedent. Therefore, Assange's deal would not jeopardize journalists in the future of being prosecuted for accepting and publishing classified information from a source because of Assange agreeing to such a charge. Afrin said, a plea is not precedent. Precedent consists of a decision interpreting a matter of law by an appeals court that will govern future cases on the same legal principle. In contrast, a plea is merely a factual agreement by a given defendant that they did a certain act, but does not bind future defendants in similar cases. For example, if Julian chose to drop his First Amendment defenses and plead guilty, this does not mean that a similar defendant in the future does not have a First Amendment defense in an Espionage Act case. No appeals court has decided such issues, and Julian's plea does not bind future courts or future parties, nor will it ever be considered in any other defendant's case. There is a doctrine that a person is bound to a factual decision, including a plea, only if they participated in that case. This means that no future defendant will ever be impacted legally, either by fact or law. As a result of Julian's guilty plea, it has no precedental value or effect. So, take that what you will. You know.
I'm sure the CIA, the State Department, the National Security Agency, the Department of Homeland Security, and others would probably see that differently. But yeah. I'm just guessing.
Well, essentially they're saying it still has to be argued whether your First Amendment rights are affected there. But the fact that he was charged with, classified information stuff, clearly Espionage Act needs to be removed, So, but we'll continue a bit. The Mariana Islands are a U.S. territory where Assange will complete the deal in a U.S. federal court on Wednesday. Technically, he's coming to the U.S., but not to the district where he was indicted. And he could be taken into custody, but we assume the U.S. will act in good faith. This is what I was worried about. Don't assume the U.S. will do anything in fucking good faith. That's bad.
Right.
So, but that was me. So, Iodor Martinez, a lawyer for Assange, released the charges that Assange apparently pled guilty. He wrote, Julian Assange has agreed to a deal with the DOJ, so he's finally free, right? And here's that documentation. Again, to receive and obtain documents, writing, and notes connected with the national defense, right? So, and he conspired with Chelsea Manning to do so, which is what he pretty much pled guilty to. So, any questions?
No,
plenty, but why now? Wasn't this what was offered before?
Well, and I think it was the only thing was
Those
he
were my
had to
first
come
two.
to the U.S. to do that. So, right? Which is why he turned that down.
Who the hell came up with the idea of the Northern Mariana Island? Genius, whoever did. Who decided that like where'd that come from? Who pulled that out of there? Brilliant. But man, and there was a lot of nerves and worry that once he got onto U.S. soil, that was he technically going to be remanded, arrested? He got in front of a judge. What the conversation that he had, or when he was allowed to speak, what he said, of course, was profound. And it's still the only thing so far that we've really heard or seen out of him so far. But that's a whole other thing we'll get to.
Yeah. Misty did a stream that day, which I was watching, and
With
you
a
should have
lot
been
of
watching too. So
a lot of tears. It's on ANN Rumble. So if you go to the Rumble channel, it's on the Bitch channel, it's on Action for Assange.
Yeah.
They got to take a victory lap. All the activists and Sleepy Josh and Andrew,
Kendra,
and Eric was in chat.
Kelly,
and Glory. I mean, I was in chat. Most of the night.
Halo,
whatever I could be. It was
Andrew.
Paula came in, I think, for a little bit. It was
Daniel Dissenter.
Yeah, Deceiver. Yes.
Deceiver. One of the few who I need to, connect with more. So, but yeah, good peeps over there. Been doing it forever. So, then you had Richard Medhurst. He weighed in. Can't believe Julian is free. I covered his case for 4 years. Listened to the U.S. criminalize journalism while the media did nothing. Julian is a freedom fighter whose sin was humanizing the U.S. victims. So
yep, and he is responsible for literally bringing Collin and I together.
Yeah.
If it were not for Richard Medhurst streaming in 2020, we both would never have joined Discord. We both would never have befriended Mona Carmona, and we both wouldn't be sitting here right now. And I had to thank him for that. And, you know, a crab dance every day for a fucking year for this man, because that guy literally in September 2020, every day was at the Old Bailey courthouse.
Yeah.
And was running from the courthouse to the hotel so that he could dump his mind down as fresh as possible after live tweeting the entire fucking thing. He basically committed it to his memory, like a photographic memory type of shit, and was able to amazingly, with incredible detail, recite what the hell had happened in the show in the courtroom. And
yeah,
he did this for like 11 or 12 days straight. And he covered the most incredible testimony I've ever heard. Go back and watch his coverages. His Gostola did it too. There were others, but I thought the way Richard covered it was just phenomenal. And
I have to say this again, but I have to give a shout out to Richard because he was the one that taught me about Assange and why I should care, and how what was happening to Assange. Now, granted, I wasn't even in doing this. We weren't in independent media at the time, but at least in thinking in terms of Richie and what he was doing, you know, how that was applicable to him. But I think in terms of the idea of thinking of press as adversarial in terms of, you know, getting the information and kind of getting the truth out there so that people are able to make decisions based on the truth. And the fact, of course, that we know that this country, well, this world hides the truth often to keep the elites in power and to break us down in the process. But the idea that, and I keep saying this, the fact that Assange's story is not talked about enough. Well, not enough at all in mainstream media. I think that kind of goes to show how dishonest and how bought our media is. And so the idea that Richie was able to kind of teach me that, and by association, Indy, that at a time when I don't think people were really as knowledgeable at Assange at the time, I think is very, very special. But yeah, just I think in a lot of ways kind of ended up having us do what we're doing now with the awareness of what we're up against.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, I certainly
I remember that one.
92. I think, didn't I film this live too? Or at least push stuff through, I think, when this was going live.
Maybe.
You know,
which
shout
one
out.
is
this? This is the largest Assange gathering of speakers to protest in the U.S., October 8th, 2022. So...
Right, well, this is the follow-up to it when you guys interviewed Misty on INN News about the action. This was in November, at the end of October, early November. That was a gathering of speakers. It was also the launch of the Indie Media Awards.
Yep.
And Misty and I and Crab and someone who shall not be named because I don't want to be yelled at for smearing them or whatever, all worked our asses off to launch it in conjunction with that global event where there was a human chain formed around Parliament in London, and there was a companion hands-off event in Washington, D.C. that Misty organized with several others, but Misty was the lead organizer, that had the largest gathering of speakers, of large name speakers on behalf of Assange, I believe, in the entire time that he was arrested, that he was in prison. I think there were 30 speakers, including Sabby Sabs, including, oh my God, so many. There was a naked guy that showed up. Wasn't that the one where there was a naked guy?
Yeah, he wanted to self-immolate himself. I try not to mention that one, you know.
Well, I was just saying the naked guy. I wasn't going to say the rest of it, but you had to cut away from that. That was during the Kiriakou speech, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Which you're showing right now. That's Ford Fisher's coverage of it.
Yep.
But then, also wanted to give special mention to our friend Gordon Dimmack, who has been also given up a ton and follow. He lives in the London area, so he's been able to follow it closely as an independent journalist. And he kind of went, mentally, everyone has a break, and it broke him for a little bit, and he just couldn't do this anymore. It was financially hurting him to do so, and mentally it was taking a toll on him.
What happened?
What happened?
Don't know, but I'll fix it.
I don't know, but that was Gordon. So we had an hour-long chat with Gordon about the Assange case, about what was happening. There was a British commentator who was in some kind of heat, Gary something, that week. So we were. That was just an incredible. I've been following him and tweeting with him, and to get the chance to kind of talk to him and listen to his perspective on how long he had been following Julian. I think he'd actually spoken to him when he was in the embassy. This goes back many years. There's Gordon.
Yep. Yep.
And he's right now. He had been off of Twitter for a while. He's now back on Twitter temporarily while he's covering Craig Murray's run for Parliament. But yeah, that was an hour-long stream. I see you have it muted on there, so we can't hear it. Your YouTube is muted, but
yes, on
you can see him scratching his ear. Endearing and adorable. So I wanted to say personally thank you to everyone, scroll down a little bit, who shared, supported, protested, podcasted, and got loud about Julian. He can finally hug his kids. He can finally be free. Lots of questions to be asked, but today we celebrate. And that was kind of how I wanted to finish off day one. I don't want to start getting negative yet. I don't want to start asking all the questions. There's going to be plenty of time for that.
Yeah.
So, look, at least let the guy get home and hug his wife and see his kids. We can, plenty of time for all that stuff. Yesterday, Julian arrived in Saipan and went before the judge, which is interesting. You put up that tweet. Now that's him walking in. The person that we were following, the journalist, had the same last name as the judge. I don't know if anybody confirmed if there was a relation there.
Right.
I have a feeling that everybody in the Northern Marianas is half related. It's awfully small, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I sent you that thread reader for that, right?
I think so, yeah. So
I believe
this was him walking into the courtroom, and this was him walking out of the courtroom as free.
Yeah.
I don't have what he said. I don't have the tweets of what he had said in the courthouse. But I do have what Caitlin wrote, because Collin actually quote tweeted and said that she perfectly had encapsulated his sentiment on the entire thing, and it's a little under 5 minutes.
Yeah. Which I have another Caitlin. We'll just back to back them real quick.
But that's Tim. I think it's Tim. I don't even know if that's her or Tim. I only read it. I didn't listen to it.
No, it's Tim. It's usually Tim. It's pretty much Tim who always does the voiceovers.
Yeah, we'll do this
usually.
one first.
But
hell, maybe anything is possible.
That's
the thing that stands out for me the most when watching the deeply moving footage of Julian Assange arriving home to Australia is how impossible this all felt until it happened. If you've been following this case for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This was the moment you'd dream of in your quiet, private moments, but could never fully allow yourself to believe would actually happen. It was very easy to imagine Assange dying in a prison cell, either in the near future at Belmarsh or further along the timeline in some U.S. hellhole. It was possible to imagine him getting out many years from now, his children fully grown and half his life stolen away from him. It was even possible to imagine him getting out one day on some legal technicality or whatever and living out the rest of his life in a nation that has an oppositional relationship with Washington, like Edward Snowden maybe. But coming home? To Australia? No chance. And yet, there he is. It happened. It's easy to get so lost in all the emotion and controversy and discussion about the details of Assange's case and his plea bargain that you forget to appreciate the fact that an impossible thing just happened. That this was a historic event which very few of us believed was ever going to occur. Until it did. And I don't know about you, but I personally find all this rather humbling. I never voiced my dark pessimism about the future of Assange's plight publicly, because it's important to push hard for victory even when the odds appear stacked against you. But I honestly did not believe what just happened was going to happen. And I was completely wrong. Which makes me wonder, what else have I been doing that with? What other battles that feel almost futile right now will one day make a fool of me by yielding an unexpected victory? Hell, maybe anything is possible. Maybe what just happened with Assange can happen with any of the other injustices and abuses we see in our world today. Maybe it can happen with Palestine, or with the build-up to war with Russia and China, or with the corruption, opacity, and malfeasance of our own governments, or with the empire itself, or with capitalism entirely. Maybe we really do win this thing. Maybe that's not a pipe dream after all. As with the Assange case, it might not happen in the most grand and egoically satisfying way we'd want it to, but what does? This isn't a Hollywood movie. It's real life. Real life doesn't move the way Hollywood conditions us to expect it to. Real life produces anticlimactic victories and mundane miracles, and it moves in ways that the ego cannot anticipate. It's comfortable to be jaded and pessimistic. You feel less vulnerable. You look cooler. You don't have to deal with the emotional work of disappointment. And, admittedly, you are very often proven right. That is, until you're not. And maybe that's not the most authentic way to come at this thing. Maybe it's better to throw ourselves into this fight, not just believing we might win, but knowing that we will. Maybe all that pessimism and reservedness is holding us back from really swinging for the fences and leaving it all in the ring. And maybe it's based on completely false assumptions about what we're actually capable of anyway. Assange has been freed. Maybe all of humanity can be.
Well, you don't miss.
Well, she's certainly optimistic, and she's been in this fight a long time, and incredibly emotional, obviously, about this, as we all have been.
Right.
The other one I thought was actually kind of better because it was talking about how it kind of feels a little hollow, which is what Dr. Nick is talking about, and why does it feel like there's another shoe that's going to drop?
Well, shoot. Let me just click this play button in.
Yeah, please.
Oh, I know what happened.
Julian Assange is free. As of this writing, he is en route to the Northern Mariana Islands, a remote U.S. territory in the Western Pacific, to finalize a plea deal with the U.S. government, which will see him sentenced to time served in Belmarsh prison. Barring any shady shenanigans from the Empire in the process, he will then return to his home country of Australia a free man. Importantly, according to experts I've seen commenting on this astonishing new development, it doesn't appear that his plea deal will set any new legal precedents that will be harmful to journalists going forward. Joe Laria reports the following for Consortium News. Quote, Bruce Afran, a U.S. constitutional lawyer, told Consortium News that a plea deal does not create a legal precedent. Therefore, Assange's deal would not jeopardize journalists in the future of being prosecuted for accepting and publishing classified information from a source because of Assange's agreeing to such a charge. End quote. I've obviously got a lot of big feels about this, having followed this important case so closely for so long and having put so much work into writing about it. There's so very, very much work to be done in our collective struggle to liberate the world from the talons of the imperial murder machine, but I am overjoyed for Assange and his family, and it feels good to mark a solid win in this fight. None of this undoes the unforgivable evils the Empire inflicted in its persecution of Julian Assange, however, or reverses the worldwide damage that has been done by making a public example of him to show what happens to a journalist who tells inconvenient truths about the world's most powerful government. So while Assange may be free, we cannot rightly say that justice has been done. Justice would look like Assange being granted a full and unconditional pardon and receiving millions of dollars in compensation from the U.S. government for the torment they put him through by his imprisonment in Belmarsh beginning in 2019, his de facto imprisonment in the Ecuadorian embassy beginning in 2012, and his jailing and house arrest beginning in 2010. Justice would look like the U.S. making concrete legal and policy changes guaranteeing that Washington could never again use its globe-spanning power and influence to destroy the life of a foreign journalist for reporting inconvenient facts about it, and issuing a formal apology to Julian Assange and his family. Justice would look like the arrest and prosecution of the people whose war crimes Assange exposed, and the arrest and prosecution of everyone who helped ruin his life for exposing those crimes. This would include a whole host of government operatives and officials across numerous countries and multiple U.S. presidents. Justice would look like a hero's welcome and a hero's honors from Australia upon his arrival, and a serious revision of Canberra's obsequious relationship with Washington. Justice would look like formal apologies to Assange and his family from the editorial boards of all the mainstream press outlets which manufactured consent for his vicious persecution, including and especially The Guardian, and the complete destruction of the reputations of every unscrupulous prostitute who helped smear him over the years. If these things happened, then we could perhaps argue that justice has been served to some extent. As it stands, all we have is the cessation of one single act of depravity by an empire who's only backing off to make room for newer, more important depravities. We all still live under a globe-spanning power structure which has shown the entire world that it will destroy your life if you expose its criminality, and then stand back and proudly call this justice. So I personally think I'm just going to take this one small victory in stride with a quick thank you to the heavens and get back to work. There is still so much to do, and vanishingly little time to do it. The fight goes on.
Yep. And there are a lot more harder questions that are going to have to be asked at some point. But Crab wanted me to mention the flight. So we find out as he's landing in the Northern Marianas, a post from Stella that this private jet, the U.S. wants to charge him, and he's got to come up with a 120 for the private jet. Why he wasn't allowed to fly commercial in the first place, I don't quite understand.
Like I get
maybe
from
they
the
thought he
first
was a-
one when he's in like essentially U.S. custody after the plea deal, right? Like I get that one. Okay, we don't want you to fly commercial because someone might nab you, right? But then like after he's free, you know, commercial flight home, like be a little cheaper, but
Well, I think they had rented it for a certain amount of time. That basically they had the plane chartered for a certain amount of time to take him to Australia via the Northern Marianas. So once he got out of the trial and once he pled guilty and the judge said you're free to go, he then got back on that plane and flew directly to Canberra, where he landed at 6:30 a.m. Eastern this morning. I don't know what time that is there, but it was just after dark.
It was,
and
yeah,
we
probably
have
about
that.
the same time.
Yeah.
At night in Australia, probably.
We have that footage there further down, but well, you know, another person that, of course, was instrumental in our education and in covering this case via independent media is Fiorella, formerly of the Convo Couch and still from the Convo Couch, but right now she's reporting from Moscow for RT. And she says, breaking the latest on Julian's trial. The trial began in the U.S. Federal District Court on the island of Saipan, where he pled guilty to a single criminal charge of publishing American military secrets as part of a deal with the U.S. that ensures his freedom. Assange stated at the trial that his journalistic activities were carried out in accordance with the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech.
Yeah.
However, that the Espionage Act that he was charged under is in direct contradiction with the First Amendment, which is profound and brilliant as usual. The judge approved the deal, which partially guilt and release, sentencing him to prison time as part of. After the court hearing, he intends to travel to Australian capital Canberra. The flight will begin on the evening of June 26th, which it did. This is a photo of him just before he exits the courtroom as a free man at the bottom of her tweet. And then, and then he walks out to the car.
Why is it? Hold on. Keep going.
Why is it? What?
That's the video at
then
the top.
Then he walks out to the car. Oh, so, making noise? That's weird.
Yeah, it's like every time I unzoom or whatever, it plays.
Oh, like refreshes the page. Oh, what a pain in the butt. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the video of him literally stepping off the plane in Canberra.
Yeah. So, waving at everybody.
Anna Mayers is freaking out over on the Rock Band, and we're going to get to all the stuff she's talking about. I love that he waves. I'd love to hear him say something, anything. He had chance several times to address a crowd of reporters, and he didn't. And I understand that he owes us nothing. And I understand that. And I'm being selfish. And all of us are, because we spent years fighting.
This little fucking pickup, dude, is so cute. With the little dangly legs. Like, kills me, bro. Like, then he just gets to go over there and hug his father. You know. Ugh. Like, I think Shipton was watching this live, and you can literally hear him start crying at this moment. Gabriel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, it was, I was asleep, but I woke up to see this. I knew I was going to see that, and we were going to see a bunch of, or some pictures today, and I wish we heard his voice at some point, and we got to kind of see his mannerisms. Now, there's a lot of questions, and I'll start to get into them, which is, first of all, this guy had a stroke. This guy's been in solitary confinement. Now, first, he's definitely wearing a bulletproof vest, and you called that, Reef.
Well, Andrew made some questions about it with the first video. So
Right.
of him getting on a plane.
He looks awfully healthy. He looks awfully healthy for a guy that people were going to his prison cell saying a month ago he was on the verge of death and incredibly emaciated. It's amazingly remarkable that he could turn around, considering he also has had mini strokes. And here's Stella's video of their reuniting.
Yep.
That's from her Instagram.
Speaking of Gabriel,
a lot of it feels like a neat little package and bow, wrapped up in a lot of ways, and it doesn't give us anything close to what we wanted. That's kind of how I would expect this to work. We were never probably going to get everything that we wanted, which was a full exoneration and dropping of the charges. Getting him out, I don't, again, fault him for 1 second for taking a plea deal at this point. He owes us nothing. He has more than sacrificed enough.
Stella did say today that Julian has to recover. That's the priority. Julian will always defend human rights. He will always defend victims. He's always done that. And that's just part of who he is. He's deeply principled and remains deeply principled and unafraid. So, I mean, from what I've heard, he might get back to work, but
right, there's also, he wasn't well enough to attend any of his hearings, but yet, he had broken ribs, and he seems awfully well considering all of those things.
That could have been exaggeration from both sides too. So,
it could have been, but the court, he wasn't allowed to attend his own hearings. Even remotely in February. February. That wasn't long ago.
No.
All right. That was 3 months ago.
Again, but that could have been a lot of things.
Some securities in solitary confinement. I don't know. And again, I'm happy to. I couldn't believe a picture I never thought I would see.
Yeah.
And thrilled, but I can't turn my meter off.
Well, I think we got time to worry about that. So
we do, but a lot of people feel like this is a setup. And that,
well, I think that's also
was getting too powerful in a way, and
partially we're all
take the teeth out of that.
Cynical, skeptical bastards who question everything and find it very difficult, as Caitlin was saying, that this is the way it's happened. And I definitely still have some questions about how this impacts us, but happy he gets to at least sleep in a bed tonight. That might be nice. Yeah. So, I don't know if you heard that. I think it was Kendra who asked me to do some AI on how Julian depicted the way he would sleep in his cell, which was like books and letters piled around him on a yoga mat. Refrain from using the mattress. And now that hope get that man a Tempur-Pedic, something, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna need that. Get a good night's rest. But Misty already talking about what's next, right? What?
Anna says Reef were smart. Anna says Reef were smart because we question everything. And that's, Ryan Christian, Last American Vagabond, literally question everything is his thing.
Also question ourselves, which I know we tend to do. We can be self-reflective. That is a thing that is possible.
Misty's starting to look at what's next, and she's starting to kind of come out of the euphoric ether, which we've all kind of been in to a point. And some people are like, look, is this a distraction from what's going on in Gaza? Is this a distraction? Are they trying to Now, I don't personally know of any person that is now going to vote for Joe Biden because he let Julian Assange go that would not have voted for them beforehand.
No, he
don't
didn't do
think
shit in this.
Political move on
First
that.
of all,
People are saying in advance of the debate that's a reason why. But you know what? He held on to this guy for 3 years and persecuted him. Trump arrested him. It's a wash. Could you even say that? You know, people are saying, well, the Democrats are stupid politically. They're not doing this for that. Plus, the deep intel state is not going to allow that unless they have awfully good reason to believe that.
I think it's more the fact that like if they continue to do this during the election season, that would have affected them. But
all right, let's also address the fact, and let's not sugarcoat the fact that the Podesta leaks disappeared, that the NC leaks, which part of the deal, were removed from WikiLeaks.
I'm sure somebody's still got access to some of those, so I'm sure those are around in the ether. But yeah, like, okay, everyone already heard what they had, what was in them. So I hope, I'm sure there's 1,000 YouTube channels who covered it. Hopefully.
I'm
At least the ones we talked to.
But over time, those will melt and disappear into the ether.
Yeah.
Click on that link there. All of our Julian Assange related posts.
Yeah.
The one in the middle of the screen. Where'd it go? I now see Collin. Okay, yeah. So that's a list of all the posts that we've done. How do we miss that? Articles I've written. Segments, live streams, anything to do with Julian. And for 30 days leading up to Day X, I was shouting out and spotlighting a lot of the creators, activists, and the journalists that have been showcasing this case starting from there back. And it was titled Free Julian Assange and a date. It started January 18th and continued through the 24th of February. And every day had a different post showcasing this. And I've been sharing some of those to Substack notes and kind of reflecting. And it's everybody did this. I mean, Stefania Marizzi, thank you for showing that there, because Stefania stepped, she has literally been on every WikiLeaks dump and been researching alongside Julian, and she's been relentless in her FOIA pursuit.
I told her on Twitter that I couldn't talk about this case or Assange without mentioning info that she got. Like, impossible to do. So,
I mean, dozens of, and this just goes back to May 2023 when they started to implement tags where I could tag all of my posts as Julian Assange related, so you could look at a category list like this. But you could see the extensive coverage that we've done. Even when I was aggregating and sharing other people's stuff that had Assange-related stuff, and how they all ignored Julian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last year, and while talking about journalism not being a crime, fucking gaslighters. And that's I had to change my Twitter handle. #journalism is not a crime. I've been saying that, and I still feel that way, and we're still fighting for that because they did. I don't care what the analysis says there. If they want to criminalize journalism, they're going to, and they just proved it.
Right.
Yeah. But I definitely also saw that they did mention that there were no victims, right? That he didn't harm anyone.
Correct.
That was legally set in stone. So yeah.
Jesse felt the same way. It didn't feel like it felt like it would. There was a lot of happiness, but
I think it felt kind of anticlimactic because that's what it was. I think
and I also
people
think
in our heads, we just kind of imagined
by design.
Like, especially with all the trial, yes, he will get pardoned and it'll be a big deal, and it'll be like it just felt sudden. to the point where it felt so sudden that people questioned it initially. And then,
you know what it reminds me of? Indy, you'll get this.
What?
Was that, you're watching an MMA fight and suddenly the fight's over because of an eye poke, or something like that. Where it's just like,
wait, what
fight's
happened?
over?
What happened?
What?
Huh?
Okay,
Right.
or something like that. Someone like some weird uncalled for stoppage. I think it was just unexpected, and it's by design. Like it's
unexpected, and I think for a lot of people's minds, it was going to happen in one or two extremes. It was going to be like either he would be pardoned, it'd be a lot bigger deal, or he died in prison. Deal. This was just kind of right smack in the middle, and just very unassuming and very like, just random. So
you played before to start the stream. You played before the stream started. Conviction Winter in Belmarsh, which is the piece that Jesse wrote about Julian, and he said to me, and one of the lines says is, "If his is the only conviction we see," and he said that line kind of jumped out at him when he signed the plea deal.
Yeah,
because he was convicted in the end, and plead. Then he said, "You'll be guilty. Won't be an innocent man ever again," is what the judge said. And I'm sure he's just like, "I don't give a fuck. Get me out of here."
Yeah. So, I mean,
by the way,
I think that's
we had to get Misty in here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she definitely has spilt her gallon of tears the last couple of days, so she's earned that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to be optimistic and take this as a win. I do think it is one. So, look forward to see what comes out of Julian in the next weeks, months, years. So yeah, nice bit of news to report on though. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I think
Anna is saying that Anna's assessment is that they effectively scared people from investigative journalism. So
possible.
Tell that to Max.
Sure.
To a lot of the Indie Media Award honorees that are not going to stop. Tell that to Alan McLeod. They're not going to stop doing investigative journalism, despite of the risk or because of the risk.
They're just going to be a lot more careful about
understanding what's at stake and how important it is to get this out there, because there are going to be so many more that are scared off. But there are some that are bold enough and are willing to take that risk, like Julian Assange did. He sat in Belmarsh prison for all of us, and he made that sacrifice because he could have taken a plea deal. I believe that he was offered a plea deal, and we've seen this. We know that he was offered a plea deal before Trump went out.
Yeah.
He was offered a plea deal. I think again last year there was talk of a plea deal, and all of a sudden they pulled that off the table. I don't know if there was ever
another one.
If there was ever a deal where he was where jail time or where they were not coming here was on the table. Again, whoever thought of the Northern Marianas, stroke of genius, and thank you to whoever that was, because that I think was the unsung hero in all of this, in figuring out how do we get them as close to Australia while still being technically on U.S. soil, to be able to plead in front of a U.S. judge and end this goddamn thing without him ever having to come here.
It was either that or that nuclear sub that we shared with them. One of the two. So...
Star Spangled Kangaroo on it?
That one. That's the one. But yeah, no, like I said, I'm going to try to take it as a win. And you know, hopefully that recharges people's batteries for the fights that you know are coming next. So, shit ain't over, fam. But
that's for sure.
Yep. Indy, you got any links you want to share? You know?
Well, go to that
planning,
one for sure. That's in the description.
Were you planning on doing a Assange marathon at some point? We've got a ton of clips to put together for that, so
we've done that a couple of times already. I may do that again at some point and add on to it with the current stuff and what we've done, or
run it all day somewhere.
2 or 3 hours. No, if anything, break it up into shorter segments. I mean, I don't know if anyone really, if it really makes sense to run a full
I'm okay with
like
a 18-hour or whatever. We've done so much, dude. I'm okay with documenting that in one place. So, whatever. We'll figure it out. But be on the lookout for something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about these things is why we're demonetized. So, you know, as always, you can go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork or scan that QR code on your screen. Links will also be in the description below if you're in that live chat. Real quick, you can go to the ! donate in the chat and it'll give you a link there. But otherwise, just like and subscribe. Share the stream. Leave a comment. You know this works by now. Help us get to 3K. We just got to 2K, so appreciate that. We can get to that next milestone. So, otherwise, thanks for watching. Alright. Oh, look at that. You can get some merch. Look at that. Y'all forgot we had merch. Y'all forgot that shit. Indienews.shop.
Oh, we've added merch.
Tons of
new merch. We added Angel in the Afternoon merch. We added what else did I just add? I added a couple of things just the other day. But yeah, definitely go check that out. I need to add some How Do We Miss That stuff. That's on my shop. That's independentleft.shop. But you can go check that out. But yeah, check out indienews.shop. 20% off with code Jesse. Look at that. I didn't even know that.
Well,
somebody set that
as
up.
always, links are in the description below. You can find everyone if you need to. You know, follow us on alternative platforms, Rockfin and Rumble, in case they decide to come for us on YouTube. It's always a good place to find us. But otherwise, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
Support independent media.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye, have a great time.